All righty, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, internet bots, and everyone else who's joining us tonight, welcome to another night of the Sydney Whisky Forum, the virtual replacement for Sydney Whisky Fair 2021, if that really is the year that we are actually in. My name is Scott Fitzsimons. It's my great pleasure to welcome us all again to another night of whiskey and drinking. This is the third night of the Aussie Whisky Get Together, a night that's a little bit of a replication of what Whisky Fair is actually about. It's not just about going up to stands and trying new whiskies you haven't tried before. It's about connecting with people that you haven't in 12 months. It's about catching up with people that you've never met before, and then also running into distillers and let's be honest, eavesdropping as many distillers chats as you can. So this is what this is. It's a Brady Bunch tonight, and we're going to eavesdrop as much as we can and have a little bit of fun. My name is, as I said, Scott Fitzsimons. I look after all the whiskey and spirits here at the Oak Barrel, which does include the Sydney Whisky Fair, which we did actually have the room booked, the license all locked in and that sort of stuff. But we, as you can tell by my haircut, and you're watching this in the future, we are definitely in lockdown still here in Sydney, Australia. But we've got guests from all over the country to have a little bit of a chat. We are live on the YouTube and the Facebook to people all over the place at oakbarrel.com.au/live. I'll be looking at a few of the chats and shout out to Justin Farmer to say my hair has grown about 100 millimeters over the last 3 Aussie Get Together nights. Yes, well, it's just greys underneath now that are pushing this one out. Yeah, so we're going to go around the ground, so to speak, and say good day to everyone. So at least on my screen, and probably yours as well, as we look straight to where I'm pointing, John Jarvis, welcome. How are you doing? Things are going well?
Yeah, not too bad. Pretty cruisy down here. Yeah, how about up there? You loving it?
Well, I'm loving it. Even in lockdown, it's warmer than Tasmania, so that's all right. To Angela and Gareth, who I think probably have the best setup I've seen in live streams in a little while. How are you guys?
Good. Yeah, really good. Really good. Yeah. Glad to be here.
Yeah, it's the self-moving camera that gets me every time. Sometimes I see guitars, sometimes I don't. I'm all about it.
It just tracks you around the room, no matter where you go. You can't escape.
Excellent. I look forward to watching that track after a few drinks of yours to make sure that it follows you around. An absolute great pleasure to welcome back Cameron to the Whisky Fair /Forum world. Mate, it's been way too long since we've had a drink together. But, you know, the tyranny of distance keeps us apart. How are you? And thank you for getting up so early. I think it's about 5 a.m. in Western Australia at the moment. It's been so long, I've forgotten how the time zone works.
WA stands for wait a while, Scotty, so you got to give us a chance to catch up to you. No, look, thanks very much. It's good to be back on the East Coast. Although I'm sitting here post-production day, it's 5 p.m. I'm at the base of a mountain range, and I've got my dinner on my cooker a bit later. So, no, great to be back and nice to see some people on the East Coast.
Beauty. Speaking of the East Coast, just below you in the Brady Bunch lineup tonight, we've got Dan Worley from Highwayman, who he looks like he's got a pup there as well. And people have always said we miss the intimacy of in-person tastings. I've seen more dogs, children, cats, and all sorts of things than I have through virtual tastings. So can we confirm there's a bit of dog action there?
There is,
Dan?
There is definitely dog action. He spends a lot of time in the distillery as well, very much a distillery dog. He's probably the most spoilt dog, definitely on the east coast of Australia. He unfortunately has to spend every waking second of every day with me now that we're in lockdown. So he may need therapy, but he keeps me amused, mate, keeps me amused.
Excellent, thank you. And I've just let David from Manly Spirits into the room and completely screwed up my order here, so this is going to get a little bit confusing. But we might jump to Chewy from 78 Degrees, Adelaide Hills Distillery, down in, funnily enough, the Adelaide Hills. Mate, how are you?
Very good, mate. How are you doing?
Yes, excellent, excellent. Loving the artwork. Is that a self composition?
actually busy all day putting that together. Just for
Good. Well, we can auction that off for charity at the end. The charity being me. Let's now that I've completely thrown this out, let's go say g'day to the two people from Manly and what is going to be known as Coastal Stone. So up in the top right-hand corner, Reggie, mate, how are you?
G'day, Scotty. Great to be here, mate.
It's an absolute pleasure to be here, and I want to do a quick shout out to Yvette Myhill, who is in regional Victoria. I think a few of you people know from over the years saying g'day as well, which is great to see Yvette tuning in to this. Reggie, you've had some internet issues with us on these sorts of streams in the past. So are you underneath the table pedaling really hard right now?
They're actually up in the hills with a Taliban in a cave, Scotty. So internet's a little sketchy.
Is that what we're calling North Richmond these days?
Sketchy, so that's okay.
It's the only place you can hide out in Sydney, mate. You know that.
I'm going to switch straight to Dave, and I think you might have other people there with you from Manly Spirits. We can see you there.
Can you in the background behind, hovering around? She's always around. Yeah, hi Scott, how you going?
Excellent, mate. Excellent. It's been a very big day for our team, Manly Spirits Coastal Stone, with the first release hitting the emails. But we'll get to that when we have a little bit of chat later. But congratulations and thanks for joining.
You. No worries.
I will. That's right. I'm going to throw now to Joshy Walker, superstar. And if you weren't, which obviously you weren't here in the green room, the pre-live, we did have Boys from the Bush as his intro song. It was a complete fluke.
Was that it? I couldn't hear it, mate. Thank you.
Ah, that's right. Couldn't you see my dancing straight into the rhythm? But as Brie Atwood is saying that the prez of Aussie whiskey.
Here she goes. Jesus. She's in early. I'll give her that. Points for being first up.
Excellent.
Good to be here, mate. Good to talk to you. And looking at that photo in the background, geez, I wish you were at the Whiskey Fair again, mate. We miss it.
Yes. I think we all do. But we're going to have some fun tonight. And who have we got? We got, of course, Paul Slater from Archie Rose tuning in. And Kirsten does say, nice hat. Because we all know people's personalities we can define by their hats. So welcome. Paul, you've been a last-minute addition to this stream. I think you were roped in by the Sydney crew from Archie Rose who couldn't be bothered to join us. So you've come in the last 48 hours.
Yeah, I had to bump a couple out to get a spot tonight. But I don't know. I think Dan's just lazy. You know, he knows where the real talent is in Melbourne. It's good to be back.
Excellent. No, look, it's going to be a great fun night. But let's crack into it. For those of you who are lucky enough to grab a set, we have some special whiskies from all 8 of these distilleries represented on the call tonight. We're going to have a bit of fun, have a bit of a chat. But even if you don't have one of these whiskies, weren't lucky enough, feel free to grab a dram from whatever you've got, have a chat, ask some questions, and we will have some fun over the next hour and a half or so. But we have a loose order that I'm going to post into the chat tonight. Again, not moving in rarity or price point or everything, but doing as best as we can when we've got some pretty bold, flavorful things coming up to find some sort of coherency with this. But not necessarily starting with something particularly light. We might jump straight into Gulwa and Angela and Gareth at the Fleurieu Peninsula. To talk about their latest. I totally stuffed that one up because I was thinking of something else. And I've got, whenever I say Fleurieu, I've got certain markers I need to hit to know which syllables they need to pronounce. And my mind was completely somewhere else, and I just lost it completely. So on that note, welcome. I'm going to put you on the big screen, get myself a long way away from that, and we can talk about a very new whiskey from you guys. But first and foremost, how's life?
Good.
Yeah, really good.
Good.
Really good.
All we have to deal with is signing in everywhere and wearing a mask. You know, we've got it pretty easy, so that's pretty good in the Fleurieu Peninsula. Just remember, Scotty, I flew to Rio. Fleurieu. Okay.
And that's how you told me, and I just lost all my save spots, and I completely ruined it.
No, all good. No, we like I say, we're out in the boondocks, out in regional South Australia. You know, south of Adelaide. So it's I think compared to, you know, the East Coast, you know,
smaller population.
It's not as populated.
Yeah.
We've had it pretty easy, you know. In a town of 6,000 people, of which 50% of them are over 60 years old. You know, it's a pretty quiet sort of corner of the world, really, if you think about it.
Yeah. But you guys have been busy, and you mentioned it's been a busy week. I don't know whether we can talk about this or not, what's been going on, but why has it been a busy week?
Well, Angela hasn't been here.
No, I haven't been here, and so you can do a lot.
So Angela's been on.
Do you mean the lot, or do something for the first time?
So Angela's been up in the Adelaide Hills on a grade 4 school camp with our youngest boy, and so in the meantime we've got stuff going on. We're still prepping. We've got a 154 kilowatt cooling tower to be able to power all the condensers on our 4 stills that we're still juggling with and getting organised. New releases coming out. We just picked up best of category international malt whiskey at the American Distilling Institute Awards. That happened this morning. New designs. We're moving off from the old label onto a newer design and things. So it's just there's always plenty to do. You get up and you just chew like mad. You just bite off where you can chew and you go hard. So been good.
Excellent. Well, let's get into a whiskey, a new one that I know absolutely nothing about. To be quite honest, I know it comes from you guys. It's got your label on it, but I haven't tried this yet, and it's brand new.
Brand new. So this was only released last week, I think it was.
Yes.
Yep.
Last week. Last Friday.
It's called. Just get your chops around this one, Scotty. It's called the Bivouac. Okay.
Bivouac. So basically, what you see all those letters and you just ignore most of them. Is that what you're saying?
Pretty much.
It is harking back to our French connections, because really the Fleurieu Peninsula was explored by the French, and so hence Fleurieu. Yep. Although the French say it so much nicer than we do. And bivouac is actually it was originally a military term. So bivouac was really talking in French about an additional watch that would actually be put up over an encampment at night. But these days, in modern terms, it's more of a temporary encampment that you makeshift overnight, rather than an additional watch. Yeah.
So for us, basically, we produced this and another whiskey called Whiskey de Garde, which is a cask strength whiskey designed not to be drunk, designed to be left in the bottle for 5 years. That's a different story. We won't talk about that one tonight. But the bivouac, for us, it's a bit of a culmination. We've hit this point, this temporary encampment. So we started out, of course, with the first release, like everyone does. Our next release was called the Rubicon, which was fairly important to us. The Rubicon, it was really about crossing that point of no return when we moved from being a brewery into fully being a distillery, because we have a brewing background, of course. And it felt to us very much like ever since we produced the Rubicon, we've been campaigning. We've been campaigning hard. Every spring, every winter, there's been an offensive, a campaign that we've been moving forwards and, winning awards and getting spreading the word. And we finally hit this point where we're sort of like, we just need to stop a second and regroup, have a temporary camp, because we've got a lot of big things coming up. We've got 4 stills running now. We need to change our label. Our branding is starting to get a little bit old, and we decided to move from constantly doing smaller runs of premium stuff to having a base product that is available all the time, and then having other premium products on top of that. So there's lots of chops and changes coming our way as we've expanded and our volume has increased over the years. And so the bivouac sort of reflects a point of saying, well, okay, we've hit this point, let's just breathe and then move forwards. So the bivouac, this label, we've used this label for years and years now, and all we do is we just change the naming on it. And so this is the last time you'll ever see Fleurieu Distillery whiskey Okay, this is the last time you'll see this label. That is it. This is the last of the big bangers, the last of the first label release we've ever had. So from here, we move forwards. Whiskey itself, let's talk about the whiskey itself. I think that's what we're here for. 48%, so this is a fun thing. As you know, we tend to be blenders. We're not really big on doing small runs of single casks and things. We try to get our Fleurieu DNA, you know, our particular coastal pastrami umami style in everything we do, so people can go, yep, that's a Fleurieu. Doesn't matter which one I drink, it's got a family resemblance to the rest. So this one is a vatting of first fill Apira, second fill Tawny, with just a dash of PX in there. So it's just this nice blend, fairly mellow for us in some respects, only 48%, but a
nice sipper,
a cracking little sipper, and a good way to start this evening.
Yeah, and can I just row back on something that, you know, the label stuff is quite exciting, and we look forward to seeing what comes up next. Did you say 4 stills?
Yes. Unfortunately, there's this rotten bloody thing called a gin craze, and it's just not going away. It's there. And so at our cellar door, you've got to understand, because we're in a tourism precinct, so the Gould Wharf precinct, we've got a couple of steam trains, we've got a 115-odd-year-old paddle steamer. It's one of the only of 2 places in the Southern Hemisphere you can do a steam-to-steam exchange. And so we're in a situation there where we have, I think, around about 87,000 people a year visit the historic Wharf precinct where we're at. And so things are always quite busy there, aren't they?
Yeah. So summer for us is mad, and then we hit a quiet point in winter. But even now we're getting people through. But it's more South Australians exploring now.
Yeah, less from interstate. And what it is that people keep coming to cellar door going, oh, you're a distillery, so you must make gin. And we go, no, we're a whiskey distillery. Pretty much 95% of our output is single malt whiskey. You must do a gin. And so, you know, we have done a gin, but we've got to a point where having to, if you do a gin on a whiskey still, then you've got to make sure the botanicals don't wreck your whiskey. And so we just hit a point where we said we need to get a couple more stills. So we picked up a few small stills, and Frankie was the most recent commissioned one. So Frankie's only 530 litres, and that's just to keep the gin side of things up and running as a sideline, I suppose. Yeah. But the two main stills, the 12 hec and the 36 hec, they're just for whiskey. They don't use for anything else.
In terms of the whiskey, this is another cracker of you know, the distillery. I'm too scared to say the name now, even though I know where my safe spots are.
Bivouac.
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 But, like, you know, it still tastes like it's got your DNA all the way through it. But I'm starting to find this in more recent releases from you guys, a little bit more layering, a little bit more complexity coming through. Is that sort of you guys learning to blend or vat a little bit? You know, you're getting to know your products a little bit better, or is it more an evolution of the distillery?
We actually spend a lot of time.
It's everything.
A lot of time putting whiskies together, but because we're now reaching a point where we've also got second fill casks that are coming up to maturation as well. I'm more excited by those because it's no longer dominated by what was in the barrel before. It really gives it a chance for the spirit to shine when it's a second fill. And I think this also is reflected in the Bivouac.
Yeah, I mean, I can't remember who it was. It could have been the guys from Bakery Hill. First fills are jokers, never quite know what you're going to get. Second fills are kings. And this is a blend of first and second fills. And so with first fills, you know, we've messed with yeast profiles and all sorts of bits and pieces. And the simple fact is that, you know, in a first fill Australian fortified barrel, the barrel is the dominant character. With second fills, it allows your actual spirit character to shine a lot more. And so you'll notice over time, you know, this softening up, I suppose, in product as we continue on our path.
Yeah, beautiful. I'm going to throw it to the panel here. the Brady Bunch, because I'm sure there's a few people that have tried a few Fleurieus in the past. I mean, where does this sit for you guys? And, you know, I wanted to start with something that was bold and robust but still, you know, has that delicateness to it. And I think this fits the bill, you know, perfectly.
Very good breakfast whiskey, guys.
Here's Josh.
Not bad late in the evening either.
Is this similar to the from Paris? What was the Paris one you released? We got a fair bit of it.
We'll always have Paris.
Yeah, that one.
That was a peated one.
Yeah. So is it similar? Is it sherry? But that one was peated, obviously. This one's not. Yeah. Yeah. No, it's good stuff. We the guys at the distillery, we have a bit of a obviously we've got a reasonably big range, and they always come back to you guys. So it's always good.
That's always a great indicator, is it? If you've got a distillery bar and stocks, you know, other Aussie whiskies, what is it apart from your whiskies that get like the highest turnover in that bar? That's always a indicator, I find. You know, for me, the local one was always Archie Rose. To see what worked really well there at that bar was always quite fascinating. So, but Josh, you flogged through a bit of Gareth and Angela stuff.
Yeah, it's funny. Some lines go really well. I think sometimes because we taste all our own whiskies, obviously, and then you can buy people of anyone else's. A lot of the time, people will buy on the name or the label. Like Dead Man's Drop, the spiced rum from Stone Pine. We sell, I don't know, cases of that in cases through the summer. People just seeing that name and they want a spiced rum and they just go, yep, I'll take it, sort of thing. It's interesting how people's buying actions are influenced, not only by taste, but by label and what they want on the day.
Yeah. No, beauty. Well, look, thanks, guys. That's another excellent release, and there's only 400 bottles in this release. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think so. This is it's a shorter run. Like I say, it's the last time we'll use this label, so it's a shorter run, and that's one of the advantage with the new stuff. Just to give you a quick flick, this isn't quite ready to roll yet. We're still waiting on the box.
Hey.
This one here is basically a prototype, I suppose, of our new house malt. So this is our new base level or entry level house malt that we'd be producing. First run of that, I think, is about 700 bottles. That's the one that won best of category in America, International Malt Whiskey in American Distilling Awards last night. So we managed to get it to America whilst we're still waiting for the box that it's got to go in. We can't ship it in Australia because we haven't got the box yet. All good.
So what's that going to be called, Gareth and Angela?
Sorry?
What's that going to be called? Have you got a name for that one?
It doesn't actually have a name. It's our house malt. It's predominantly tawny cask, and it's something, effectively we've got a 12 hectolitre vessel, and as we take off the bottom, we just keep filling in the top, mainly with predominantly port casks, and we don't really have a name for it. Generally, though, it's being referred to as, the name doesn't appear on the bottle or anything, but generally because of the bird on it, it's referred to as albatross, which do visit the coast here on the Fleurieu quite often in winter. They get blown ashore. So we just refer to it as Alba, as our entry-level continuous line malt.
Yeah, nice. Yeah.
Will you guys also be releasing single casks and one-off releases and special releases, that kind of thing, or is it just going to be the one whiskey now?
No.
So we'll have another label for our other whiskies, but even then we're aiming for bigger releases rather than single casks, because we've always found with single casks the quality can go up and down as well. So we rarely release a single cask because of that reason.
So Fleurieu whiskies will basically have two labels: our standard Albatross, I suppose,
Yeah.
and then a premium label, premium box, premium label, where we do, smaller blended runs of things. Yeah.
Beautiful. Well, look, thanks, guys, for that insight and for that cracking whiskey. Your hard work is done now. You get to just drink for the rest of the night and critique everyone else. But we do have a request from Lee Atwood. If you could just play some background music and a couple of songs as we get through the rest of the evening, that'd be great.
But do you want me to get on the drums? No? Okay.
Yeah, no, go on. No, well, let's just see how it goes. Let's see how this night rolls on. But we might go to the West Coast now and bring in someone who has been a huge part of Whisky Fair, since the very early days, with a plethora of brands and whiskey sort of releases now that are coming through. This is a whiskey that we've threatened to do and talk about at the Oak Barrel and Whisky Fair a couple of years now, and have never quite got to it. So it's my absolute pleasure to welcome an absolute legend of Australian distilling, Cameron Syme, onto the stream with. And here we go. This is, I thought the names would get easier after the first one, but we're going to go with the Dugite. And we might just need you to plug in there, Cameron, because we can't quite hear you.
Now you should have some success.
Yep. Beauty. Yeah, gotcha.
That's good. Yeah, beauty. All right. Well, look, thank you for that. Far too generous with the opening comments, but no, look, really appreciate the opportunity to get over on the East Coast virtually, if not in person. And I am, here with Dugite. It is 5 p.m. or 5:28 or something now over here. So I've come from the distillery. I'm literally at the butt of the mountain, having been dealing with barrels and stuff. So no branding with me today, not even a bottle to show off to you in terms of the Dugite packaging. I will sort of maybe hold this one up and go, this is our sort of the Tiger Snake distillery. So it should go, sorry, Jack, this is Tiger Snake country. See Reg holding up our little bottle there. Thank you. So Dugite is made out in the Tiger Snake distillery out here in the Prongrats. It's the little brother or cousin of Tiger Snake whiskey. It's a blended whiskey at 40% ABV. So I'm really happy that we've got this early on in the day, and would have been really happy for Dugite as the opening whiskey. Dugite for me was the real goal of making a distillery was to be able to produce an Australian whiskey at an affordable price. We all know issues of small scale, and that flows through to price, and it is what it is. We're probably one of the luckiest whiskey markets in the world, I think, in terms of quality being produced locally, but that comes at a cost. Whereas with Dugite, we've been able to produce larger volumes and larger scale out here in Prongra, and that allows us then ultimately to produce a whiskey that we think's more an everyday person's whiskey, if I call it that. Yep, I can go and grab that and have it. So you might call it that breakfast whiskey that was mentioned before. It is a secret.
That's
blend.
right. Dan has been known to have 2 breakfasts, so he can. I'm sure he'll get over that.
I'm a thirsty guy.
If you have to eat a frog, get up in the morning and do it early, it's the same with the snake. So Dugites are the cousins of the tiger snakes. They're poisonous. We see them at a distillery here regularly every year with them and the tiger snakes, which is why we did it on this. This is a secret blend of single malt that we distill out here in Prongra and mixed grain whiskies that we distill out here in Prongra as well. So it's I don't want to call it a blended whiskey because it's all just whiskey from one distillery, but it is a creation of those. So people with a fine palate should be able to pick up, an element of corn. But, again, those people who are the brewers will know, how much volume of specialty grains you need to put into a mash to create something that tastes much different. So for me, this should be a very easy, approachable whiskey at 40% ABV, and something that we're looking at in terms of being able to produce at volume to be able to supply the Australian market.
I think the whiskey's a triumph personally, and to get anything down at the sub $100 mark is, as many distilleries on this call will know, is not the easiest trick to play. You were very, very generous with your time a few years ago, what seems like an age ago, taking me through that Parongarup distillery and there was a lot of very, very cool kit lying around in there. So can you very quickly take us through, like, the Prongerup distillery? It's obviously distilling. Is it mashing and brewing? Is it, what else is it doing at the moment?
Okay, so the Prongerup distillery has a 10-ton rotating malting plant, so combined steeping, germination and killing vessel, SKV. We then do our own milling, so we've got all the grain cleaning, grain storage out here, sourced direct from farmers, malt on site, do our own, then post-malting, dealing with the grain, and then milling, fermenting. We're just about to increase our fermenting capacity out here by another 50%, production output by 50%. We use old wooden fermenters, so about 4,000 litre French oak wooden fermenters for our fermentation process. We've got a 600 litre yeast propagation system here, and we're working with one doctor of yeast to capture a West Australian native yeast that's sort of out in the barley fields, but we're propagating our yeast. We've got 1,000 square metres shed of pure barrel space with about 2,500 200 litre plus casks in it. I think the largest casks that we've got are some 800 litres. And yeah, we've got guys out here. We do rum as well out here, sort of an old blackstrap molasses rum, as well as the Tiger Snake whiskey, which is much more the sour, that sour mash bourbon style, all of that, and then the Dugite. So it's a real hub of activity. We're doing, at the moment, we're just about to move to 5 days a week. At the moment, we do 3 days a week of double shifts, and the other 2 days a week are just a standard shift. But we'll shortly be, double shifts out here 5 days a week. So it's where I spend most of my time. As I say, I'm in my dodgy old office with the penguin or the pelican hanging on the back here that the old people left us.
I was going to ask what it was.
I would like to be in the barrel, sort of really doing it from there. But of course, we are remote at the bottom of the mountain range, and making sure that I can get access to communicate is a bit more important than my backdrop.
And look, I think if there's anything that's come out of these get-togethers again this year, is that we need to start to do more of these, but focusing on distilleries. So we'll figure out a way. But I want to hazard a guess that everyone in this panel would have tried a Lime Burners or 15 in their time, and probably a Tiger Snake as well. Is there anyone coming into Dugite for the first time?
Yeah, my first time.
Yeah, cool. I think for me, from the first time I tried it to now, and I think it's evolved over the last couple of years as well. It's got a little bit more complexity and structure to it. It's bloody good, honest Australian whiskey. I think the key word there is honest. Like you could, and Cameron, there's a reason why I'm doing this second, not first, is because you can, get this down you pretty quickly and pretty enjoyably. And so I want to sort of like to slow it down a bit by doing it second. But any thoughts from the panel here?
Beautiful apple note on the open, Cameron.
Yeah, it's delicious.
It's quite perfuming.
Yeah.
I find a lot going on the nose, a lot more than I probably would have expected for a 40%. How long has it been on the market for? I've never seen this before.
So just to pick up on Scott's with yours, John, it's been on the market. We launched it during the middle of COVID, so I think it's actually just had its first birthday at the end of July. It's been on the market for 12 months. A little bit harder to get around and press the flesh and get it out there during that. And Scott, in terms of you saying when you first tasted it to now, of course, we're now into using 3-year-old whiskies for this rather than 2-year-old whiskies for it. So, you've got that extra, 12 months in cask, which is where we want, we don't release anything really under 3 to 5, even though we don't go with age statements on them, although it's something we're considering.
Yeah. Beautiful.
Cameron, are you looking at doing like a house pour Australian whiskey and a kind of spirit mixer for cocktails with this?
Look, I think at $99 RRP, Dan is the recommended retail. It's still above a first pour. It's not really a first pour, but instead of people reaching for a Jack's Gentleman Jack or something, that the next range up in any of those introductory whiskies, even the Johnny Walkers, once you move out of the straight reds, then it's really to be, I think, in that space. to do the first course stuff, I think would be, it's not economical. I mean, we produce all of our, we do our own grain. We don't buy in neutral spirit from somebody else and put it in barrels, and age that as a blend without. It's all stuff that we have brewed, fermented, distilled, aged on site. And that does, it comes with a cost. I mean, on reflection now, I would like to have been able to do it for a little bit under 99 because, when you start to build in increases in excise, it's not long before it hits that $100 mark. So,
100%.
I'm still doing things to reduce costs so that ultimately I can try and, keep it cost effective for this style of whiskey. I mean, Lime Burners is produced in small scale in Albany, and that pricing will always be where it's at. But Dugite and the facility we've got out here, it's a 3,800 square metre distillery, of which we've got 800 as a barrel store upstairs, 1,000 down the back, and the distilling space itself where we do the malting. And we've got a cooper, old Scottish cooper, who started his apprenticeship in Scotland at Whisky Distilleries there, who's now, in his late 60s, early 70s, finishing his career doing stuff here. So, we are, I think, very blessed in this part of the world, not only in terms of what we're able to do with whiskey and whiskey production down here, but certainly from a COVID point of view, I feel for everybody who's locked down and look forward to being able to welcome all again over to this side of the country. So no, I'd love to get there, Dan, long and short. I just don't think I can produce it cheap enough, and I don't think it's the market that I really want to be in either.
It does make a really good old fashioned. I tell you, it is. It's a very, very good mixing whiskey.
Thank you. I'll stand Woolley saying that, and I'll be very happy to take his comments on, mate. Thanks very much.
Yeah, and beautiful opening nose, Cameron, too.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I think, yeah, it's something we wanted to do because, as you say, Cameron, it's been a bit of a year to try and get out, particularly on the East Coast here, to try and get that to, people in people's mouths. And this is really a whiskey people need to try and experience for the first time. And it's been a pretty tough 12 months to do that. But it is, as I say, it is a triumph. I think it's a cracking whiskey for the price point. And it's a cracking whiskey regardless of price point. It's the price point happens to be a bonus on it. So congratulations again. And yeah, look, mate, there is a lineup of drams from not just me but everyone on the East Coast when we can meet somewhere in the middle potentially in the future. So thank you very much. But we're going to move on to whiskey number 3, which we have 2 representatives here for, and it's been a bloody big day and a long time in the coming for this day. And we've got David from Manly Spirits and Reg, who I've had to update his name there to put Coastal Stone in the back there because he only put Reg in his title. So
thank you, Scotty.
That's all right, mate. Congratulations. Am I correct in saying that officially today that the Manly Spirits Distillery released to its email list the first ballot for the very first release of Coastal Stone whiskey?
It is
100% correct.
Yeah. We don't have the bottle here, but yeah, we released our Coastal Stone whiskey. There's a little screenshot of it. So Vanessa's sitting near by me here, but it's very exciting for us. It's a culmination of a bit over 4 years. We started 2017. We've been laying down a barrel every day like everybody does. We've got nearly 1,000 other things. I think Reg is up to about 992. Reg, I think we're up to about 992. Cameron is very jealous. We don't have 2,000 square meters to store them out the back, so we have to squirrel them in various spots by the coast. But yeah, it's pretty hard storing all that whiskey. But yeah, these we laid down. Reg can talk about them in a bit. We laid them down in the first month that we started distilling back in June, July 2017. So they've been resting nicely. Mostly they've been in this distillery, but we're really proud to have got some whiskey out here. We put it online today at midday, and we got lots of people buying it, so it's exciting. So the next step is to get people tasting it. So this is kind of actually here right now. Just right. This would be the first time that a wider group has tasted it. So it's pretty exciting. Reg, what would you like to kick into with the moment? You with us, Reg?
DJ Reg, who I presume his job at the distillery is just to lay down beats throughout the day.
He's
Just
normally
look good.
not
Comb the
short
hair,
of
look the
a
part,
word.
100%.
But I mean, maybe we can talk a bit about.
I can't hear David, unfortunately. So yeah, it's been a journey. It really has, and a very proud day and a big moment for us to release David and Vanessa's Dream after 4 years.
Yeah, it's exciting. Yeah.
So if you can't hear Dave for whatever reason, maybe I can just wrap that up. So Dave and Vanessa are the owners of Manly Spirits and did a lot of the distilling and well, let's say everything in the early doors. And then Reg, you've come into the team in the past, what, 24 months, 2 years type thing. And but have you been involved in the blending of this as well, and the creation?
Not so much the creation from a distilling point of view, but definitely from the final tasting and blending part. We all sat down and tasted a range of our casks across various expressions. And I mean, first release, you want something that's really special, that's going to hit the mark. And that's what we did. We sat down and looked at a range of casks and picked what we thought was the best. Yeah, here we are, Coastal Stone, first release, day one.
Yeah.
Big milestone. We're just about to lay down the 1000th cask for Manly Spirits. So a lot of work in the last 2 years, and lucky to have a very good production team behind me that every day they front up and every day they put in.
So maybe I'll tell you guys a little bit about this whiskey. Would that be good?
Yeah, go for it. Because also, Dave, just quickly, I remember when you were first starting, you were able to come to the whiskey fairs and things like that with all these cask samples of spirit that had come off this one still, but there was 6 or 7 different flavors and creations of new make spirit you were doing. So what are we tasting and where has this come from?
Okay. Oh goodness. All right. Well, we start from malt as well. We don't have a malt house like Cameron does. I'm getting very jealous once again of Cameron. I'm not sure many people do. But we take Australian malted barley. So we mash it, we ferment it. We do nice long ferments. We had to choose our cut points for heads and tails like everyone did. So in that first couple of months, we were kind of deciding how deep we cut into the feints, what sort of head cut we take, and things like that. So back then there was variations. We settled after probably about 3 months into the mold we wanted to get to. So and that stayed the same. We haven't mucked around with our new make spirit since we started. So we have, I designed the stills. I copied them off some Scottish stills and stuff, but they've got upward sloping line arms, and they're nice and tall. They've got lots of reflux. So the spirit's a malty spirit, like a lighter spirit. But I think as Gareth was talking about earlier, when you put them in first fill, 100 litre, shaved and charred cask, and this is 100 and 225s actually. They're strongly barrel. The cask influence is massive. So these have a lot of cask influence. Interestingly, today Reg and I tasted a second fill Tawny cask, which was about 3 years old, and that's going to be a different whiskey than this. It's a lot finer. The spirit's more forward, but this one is very much all about Australian Apera. It is a blend of 100s and 225s. In general, we're preferring the larger format. So we don't have many of these smaller format barrels around. This is a limited release, as the other ones will come out over the next 6 to 9 months. But we filled 4 Apera, 4 Tawny, 4 Shiraz, 4 Pinot. What else did I miss? Bourbon and some new American oak in our first month. So our releases over the next 6 or so months are those pretty much. A couple of them we're topping up with some bigger barrels just to get a bit more volume. That's the bourbon and the Apera cask. But be interested to hear what people think of this.
Let's throw it to the panel. I on purpose haven't tried this until tonight, and for me, there's heaps of that really rich sweetness, that not dried fruit but very lush fruit, and heaps of flavour in there. But what does the panel of experts think?
Well, very nice. I'm getting some tropical top notes there. that I'm really enjoying, which is nice to see. Yeah.
It's the one thing that potentially I'm not getting, which I thought I might, is like I thought I was going to get a salt bomb, but you're well, like like a salty sort of influence, a little bit like what Gareth and Angela get and what you see in some Scottish distilleries. But your warehouses aren't necessarily on Manly Beach, are they?
No, they're. I mean, Curl Headland's about a kilometre away, so we're not. It's not like going to Lafroig where those bloody things are right next to the sea lapping at you. But it's coastal influence, yeah. But I don't know. We could put some salt in it if you like to make it a bit salty. But because Vanessa will, don't worry, believe me, Vanessa will get me to do anything. We're not scared about kind of using a bit of innovation to make some good product. But so it's actually, I'm going to have a joke about this, but it's something we've considered and we're about kind of using some minerals in whiskey to improve its flavour. We haven't really done our development work on that yet. It's something that's we've certainly talked about. Not in this whiskey though.
David and Reg, I think it's a beautiful whiskey. I mean, it's got a very, very clear cask presence, nowhere near as punchy and cask forward as that beautiful whiskey from Fleurieu we started with. But it's it's the multi flavors and characteristics I'm getting across my palate more first, and then it's the it's the cask that's after that. So I think it's well integrated.
Oh, that's good.
And it certainly lends that long finish as well.
Thanks, Cam.
Definitely a sherry cask.
Yeah.
There's a really nice savouriness coming from the Apera as well. Very, very good.
Maybe my last comment, unless people ask, is when Reg and I and a few of our team were doing our blends, we were tasting the 100 litre and the 225. Interestingly, the 225s were a bit younger, like the bigger casks, but we felt that the balance was a bit more appropriate. And I was going to only use the hundreds for the release first, but we loved the balance of the 225s and the way they made it, more spirit focused. The cask dropped back a bit. So that was definitely a big part of how we put this together to try and take that, sherry bomb away.
Maybe
I reckon
on
it's
your
great, David.
thoughts, we don't
I don't know
any
what,
litre casks at all. We use, we've 2,700 casks. I think we've now got 9 left. Everything we use really is minimum American ex-bourbon, the 200 or 180 litre, and then really Australian, sized wine casks, briefs and that sort of thing. So I agree with your comment. Our lesson that was learned through time was, in fact, a larger cask matures in a very similar time frame to a 100 litre cask, but the benefit of the whiskey in the 200 or 180 plus litre cask is so much better than a 100 litre format that we've moved everything
100%.
into that.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah,
and second fills as well. I think I'm really getting to like as well. We just do a similar thing.
Yeah, I've got to agree with Cameron there too. What he said there is absolutely spot on. For especially on the mainland, climate. I can't really talk about the East Coast, but the bigger format casks are the bomb. Definitely the way to go.
You have to watch those 100 litre barrels if you are going to use them. Yeah.
We gave up on 100 litre casks years ago.
Yeah.
We've got plenty of 100 litre second fills, but we'll never buy 100 litre again. The bigger cask format is very much the way to go.
Yeah. We did the same. We did the same as well. We originally started with 100. Obviously, we're very early in our whiskey life, but we quite early on realised that the 100s were just not maturing in the way that we wanted them to.
Yeah.
So we started buying in 200s, and we've upscaled to those. And moving forward, that's all we're using now as well. We're just starting to look at the second fills. Everything we're using so far is first fill, shaved, toasted, and charred. But yeah, we're just starting to look at what refills are doing to the whiskey.
100%. Yeah, hundreds tend to mature a hell of a lot faster, and you tend to throw a lot more wood and notes. You really have to be on top of your game if you're going to use hundreds.
Yeah.
It's cracking whiskey, guys. Well done.
Thanks.
Will all the Manly Spirits whiskey be coastal stone? Is that sort of how it'll?
Yeah, we should talk a little bit about that. So, oh my goodness. Vanessa and I had years of debates, actually, years about whether we should release under Manly Spirits or we were North Fort originally. We're going to build our distillery on blooming the headland at North Head, and we couldn't do it due to all sorts of reasons. So because we haven't been able to move our distillery there, we've decided to change to more coastal. But coastal stone represents what Manly Spirits is. You know, we distill by the sea. It's Sydney, it's sandstone. The bottle itself, Vanessa should be very proud of. It's got a whoops, the stopper.
Sorry, guys, we actually forgot to bring
the
bottles
stopper
home.
here. Whoops, you can see it. Is made from Sydney sandstone. So Vanessa said we're going to do it. I said you can't do it. It's too expensive. There's no way you can do it. She found some discs. What do you call them? The quarry or whatever. So they cut the discs and they get sent to Portugal and get sent back. So anyway, it's real sewn, and the bottle is eroded like eroding sandstone. So it's a beautiful package. It looks lovely. Light kind of refracts through it all. Whiskey has to taste good too, of course, but it's not. But that's kind of a bit of a Manly Spirits thing. Is that we got the two of us, right? So Ness very much produces a beautiful package as well. But we need lovely whiskey too. So hopefully the balance between those two will keep people happy too.
Like a fine whiskey.
Like a fine whiskey.
I think it's excellent. And so this is, just to sort of put this in perspective, this is now, if people aren't on your mailing list and haven't got it, is there still a chance people can sign up for the ballot for this? Yeah,
the ballot just opened today. We opened that for people who'd subscribed to our whiskey list to give them a bit of a benefit. So it's going to be available for a bit. If you subscribe to the whiskey list, can you go on now?
The ballot's open for about 5 more
days.
Yeah,
so, we're selling the sets too, just our batch ones over the next but yeah, it's just lovely for us to get it out there. Some of the other expressions coming forward, like the Pinot cask. Holy cow. I mean, Pinot's tricky. I've found those barrels the toughest to taste as they move along. But, wow, even in the 100, after 4 years, those things are incredible. I don't know. It's like fighting a tiger or something, trying to get the flavour to be right. But they could do with a blend with, something, second fill or bigger, but I'm not sure. So we'll have to decide whether we release it kind of full on like that or dumb it down a bit. I'm not sure. We'll work it out, Reg, won't we?
Nod, Reg, nod.
Yeah, nod. Yeah. That's what I have to put up with every day at the distillery. My production anyway.
Is that a custom bottle too, Dave?
Yeah. Yes, Josh. Yeah, it's a custom bottle. By the way, we went 500 mil. Only to try and keep the price point down. This isn't going to be our normal price point, by the way. This is a batch one special release price point, just to kind of talk a little bit about price point. We want to make it much more accessible when we get to our volume, but we thought for these rare ones, why not? But
will the plan be to have a core whiskey at some point as well, or will it be more limited release stuff moving forward?
We'll do a little bit of both. I call it the 80-20 rule. We'll probably get 80%. Whether it's one core or two or three, I'm not sure. We're laying down kind of 3 streams. First fill bourbon, 225s. Shaved and charred a pair of tawny where we can get them in pretty much 300s actually, hogsheads, and what have I missed? Oh, the other interesting one, of course, is charred red wine. So how they head, we get them from AP John. They're really nice casks. They're beautifully put together. But whether we blend or, single releases, I'm not sure yet. What we talk about is we want to make great whiskey. We don't want to kind of just force ourselves into we must do single malt like this. So we don't quite know. And the other 20, just to finish, is we do odd things. Like today we distilled 4 pints as a beer they made for Brookie Oval for the rugby league thing, but for the Sea Eagles. But nobody went, because of COVID, of course, then nobody's buying it. So we've kind of bought, some stuff off them at cost. And we're, today you did a couple of wash runs, didn't you, Reg? He's probably going to nod his head. I don't know, maybe, yes.
He's lost in the tunes.
I think he's got beats.
I think he's gaming.
I can't hear a word. Dave's saying, unfortunately.
Oh, you can't? Wonder why you can't hear me.
Reggie, can you hear me?
Plug in.
Yeah, I can hear Scotty.
That's weird.
No,
This tells me every day. Anyway.
Anyway, I'll be.
Yeah. Yeah. So we're going to have those odd ones. Like we've got we've got some ginger beer casks. Once again, having a brewery next door is really fantastic. So, I think Starwood did a ginger beer one with the 3 big ones of those. We've kind of smoked pine mushrooms and tried to make a bit of peaty flavour. We've smoked some seaweed and tried to get that into the malt. Various bits and pieces. Those little odd ones will kind of kick out every so often. But really, it's just the start, right? It's going to keep us interested and kind of working out how to blend and, what the best taste and flavour profiles are. Very start.
Yeah. I think it's an excellent drop, and the future looks very, very bright, and something that someone who obviously works in a Sydney CBD sort of environment is very excited to have another excellent Australian whiskey from our doorsteps. So congratulations to both yourself and Reg, who might be able to hear me. And just Reg, to translate, he said that what's happened there is that David and Vanessa have done a lot of the hard work, and then Reg comes in, plays a few tunes in the corner, and clocks off at about 2 p.m.
Generally, herd cats is would be the job description.
But if you want a story about anything that's happened in the world, Reg has got it. He's done it before. Helicopter.
I mean, 2 years in, having a lot of fun. Great team of guys. David and Vanessa support us in everything we do. They've given me a lot of support over the 2 years I've been there. Having a lot of fun. And
good team of distillers
as the release says, everything we do in-house. It's grain to glass, so we run a brew house. Both of our stills, everybody's hands-on. There's no segregation. If you're not prepared to put in, then you do brew house, you do everything. And that's just how we roll. And this is a reflection of a lot of hard work over a lot of years by the whole team, David and Vanessa's dream, and the previous distillers, everyone that works there. Every day we get in there and try and do the best we can to produce the best juice we can.
Thanks, Rich.
Excellent. Now, look, congratulations, both of you. And I don't have the website on hand to put up on screen, but if you're watching this stream, then surely you know how to use Google and either Google Manly Spirits or Coastal Stone or a combination of the two, and you'll find their website. Jump on there. This is the first of what's going to be a series of releases, I believe, in these sort of early doors before the core or house comes in. But you'll only have one stab at this excellent first release whiskey, which if you go on there, one thing we haven't touched on is not only the packaging of the bottle, but the packaging this comes in is not a throwaway packaging. This is something that every Manly Spirits bottle that you buy for the next 10, 20 years will come in. There it is. Take it on your picnics. Go for walks with it. In your 5 kilometre little walks, take that in your handbag, and you'll be right. David, Reg, and Vanessa in the background there. Thank you so much for allowing us to take part in your launch day. But we'll move on quickly now to someone who I can see has got a bit of Diet Coke sitting next to a Backwoods next to him. I don't know if that's the way he drinks all his Backwoods whiskey.
Well, Scotty, I just thought we'd just have the order of appearance. Backwoods is just above the Diet Coke there, and we'll just keep building from there.
Yeah, okay, mate. To Josh Walker from the Timboon Distillery, we've got the brand new Governor's Reserve there, mate. And just before you talk us through, it's just you sometimes when you sit back, you're a little bit soft. So just speaking to the microphone, that'll be excellent. But you've been busy the past couple of years. When we spoke to you last year, there was a cooperage sort of just starting up. How are things at the distillery?
Yeah, going well, mate. Obviously, the cellar door's all shut down, but production. Cooperage now is doing barrels for not only our production, but a few wineries in the area and a couple of distilleries up around us. So, it's keeping my father-in-law pretty busy. So, it's good. We've all added our brew house where we malt and crush all our barley for our whiskey into our beef farms now. So, we have about 300 beefies that are looking for a feed every morning off grain, as everyone had everyone would know. So yeah, trying to incorporate that into it down there in Timboon, mate.
Yeah, beauty. Now, it's normally about this time of year when myself and you and yourself get together and put together a Shaggers Reserve release. There's been 3 Shaggers Reserve oak barrel exclusive to the past 3 fairs. Now, we've decided not to do that this year because we are working on something a little bit different, which I promise you that particular item that's sitting here that we need for that is almost in the stage that's ready to go. So there is, for those who are looking for Shaggers Release 4, there is something bigger and better coming. But this is something that is generally what we have in front of us tonight is something that's generally a cellar door release. But you've opened up a little bit wider. So talk us through the Governor's Reserve.
Yeah, so it's something we do 2 times a year. Generally release about 25 bottles on the website and then just sell the rest into our cellar door. Obviously, the cellar door is closed. It has been open and closed for the last sort of month. So, yeah, we've let a little bit more go online. And obviously, send a bit up to you guys. This particular one is about a 50-50 blend of sherry and port cask. So it's a little bit different to our 3 core lines that are all aged in port barrels. It's quite plump and juicy on the nose. Maybe get a little bit of crispy bacon there, as Lee Atwood always likes to add into his tasting notes. No peat or anything in this one. It's pretty straight. So about 150 bottles, I think, of this one. So yeah, we'll see how it goes, mate.
Mate, it's one thing I love about your spirit is that it's so alluring, it's so inviting, and it's, even if it has big flavors, it's generally still quite a soft sort of spirit, and it strikes me as a mature spirit, which makes a lot of sense. That the fact Timboon's been going since 07 as a distillery, pretty much.
Yeah, 07. So it started as a very, very small distillery, little 600-litre pot still that ran about 6 times a year. Over in 2013, 2014. We've slowly been ramping up production since then. So sort of been trying to double production each year. But as you know, there's always a bit of an issue, as we all know, cash flow is always due. So slowly growing. We've got a still now, and do our own barrels, do our own mashing. Sort of grain to glass, as Red was saying. So slowly building along, mate.
Yeah. So, I mean, just on that, like grain to glass, there's a few distilleries in Australia that are doing it, but I think very soon Australia will have the most distilleries in the world that are probably doing grain to glass. It doesn't happen there's a few Scottish ones, there's some Canadian ones, I think there's some American ones, but it is very, very rare. When you talk about your grain to glass, is that when will we see that, or is that already looking like it's going to be in bottle?
Yeah, so we have our estate sort of relying up. So we grow our own barley on our own beef farms as well. And then, from right through from that point to doing our own barrel work as well. We sort of control just about every step of the process, apart from what was in those barrels before we get them. So that's the ultimate goal, I suppose, to have that estate-grown single malt whiskey. We're slowly just ticking off each little thing to get to that point. So it's really the barley now. Is that Mikey Lackland?
It is the Shaggers Reserves release. For anyone who isn't familiar with them, tend to come out magically at about 69.69% out of the cask, and there tends to be about 69 bottles in each one of them. We just get lucky with those casks every year, which is fantastic. But this is Shaggers is big, it's bold, it's robust. This is for me classic Timboon. This is got all the restraint and the refinement. This is a whiskey that demands patience and time. And let's be honest, if you're lucky enough to get to Timboon and that part of the world, and whether you're in the coast or a little bit further inland, it's a place that demands your time and patience to go and see it. So, I mean, to throw to the panel here, I assume most of you have tried a Timboon over the years. I've certainly catered for myself. But what do you think? This is the second Governors of the year. Is that correct, Josh? This is the second one.
Yep, second one. Yep.
But just
definitely
supremely
poured
elegant.
cherry on those.
I'm getting in the finish. I'm getting a real big allspice and cloves, and that whole Christmas pud clove
fruit.
Yeah, it's lovely. Yeah, well done.
Yeah.
We keep Timboon on our cellar door, of course. We have a list of single malts at our cellar door. We have our half a dozen or so malts always available, and then we have our second blackboard. On our blackboard, of course, we have Timboon there, and great.
Yeah, thanks, Gareth. Appreciate that, mate.
No worries.
There's fantastic, nice fruit characteristics. It's sort of that towards the back palate, sort of halfway, 3/4 back. And I think those smoked meats elements, and that combination would go really, really well. So no, it's another solid Timboon whiskey.
Yeah, thanks, Cam. Appreciate that, mate.
It's like, do we expect anything less from Timboon? It's become one of those things. Like, and I think, Josh, to your detriment sometimes, perhaps here at the Oak Barrel, we don't jump up and down as much about, a new Timboon release because we know it's going to be great. And we know that all the Timboon releases have been great. So it's just another great Timboon release. So I do apologise. Next time I'll jump up and down a little bit harder and higher for it. But we just assume it.
Mate, I always get that question asked in Taste Next. What are you doing? What's the next big release? I suppose my main theory is just to try and do a consistent whiskey every time, and try not to, recreate the wheel too much, I suppose, which is cool. Hopefully it's consistent and it sells bottles of whiskey at the end of the day. So, yeah.
Great job, Josh. Great job.
Yeah, it's delicious.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
I want to throw to someone who's been very quiet here tonight so far, because he was dragged in last minute from the Sydney crew, and I do believe his tasting box is somewhere in transit between the Archie Rose Sydney Melbourne and Archie Rose Melbourne office. So Paul, if you could just give us our thoughts on all the whiskies so far, and what actually is in your glass.
They look bloody delicious, Scott, and I'm hoping I've got an honest TNT driver, so I do get to enjoy them sooner rather than later. But yeah, I'm trying to put the pieces together at the moment. I've tried most of the distilleries that are up to date, but of course none of these particular releases. So just living vicariously for now, mate.
Well, mate, just like people who missed out on this tasting pack at home, and we had very limited packs, just pour something from the cupboard and just nod along, and you'll be right.
I'm getting high on my own supply here, but if you can't drink your own, what can you drink?
Oh, Archie Rose do have whiskey, do they? In this? Oh, there you go.
Someone out here.
Yes, no, look, mate, I've made jokes to Dan Hutchins-Reid and to Nick Baxter on the first two nights, so you're getting all the best ones that I've refined over the first two nights.
Ooh, lovely. I feel very very blessed, mate.
Look, Josh, mate, it's another great whiskey, and I hope to tell the world about what we're planning to do together very, very soon. But shout out to yourself, not only being a regional distiller and the troubles that brings, or the challenges that brings in itself, but what you've done in the past 24 months through COVID, and like, let's not forget going back to the bushfires, sending a lot of hay up to central west New South Wales and stuff when the drought was brutal is not strong enough a word for what was going on there. So, mate, you've done not only exceptional as a distiller and a producer, but everything you've done in the past 24 months. And I really wish that you guys can get a break down there, because I know you work with cellar doors, a big thing for you, and that hasn't been consistent for the past 24 months. And we can do virtual tastings with whiskey. It's harder to do with things like local milk and local ice cream and that sort of stuff, which I know is a big part of what you do.
Yeah, thanks, Scotty. Thanks for running it. And I suppose just on that too, COVID has given us a bit more time to play around with some different things. And we have a big thing coming later in the year for a charity that we're working with. We're going to donate so much per bottle to this charity. So when we release that, we'll let you know, and hope everyone jumps on board. Try and cure a rare disease. So yeah, stay tuned.
Can you be a little bit more of an asshole next time, Josh? Because you're making everyone look bad. and I put myself like front of that queue. Every time I speak to
Cool.
you, there's
Shut
always,
up now. I'll shut up.
yeah.
Carry on.
Yeah. All right. So let's move on, because otherwise I'm just going to feel even more insecure than I already am. But he makes good whiskey. He's a bloody good bloke, and can't keep up. Look, let's go on that note. Let's go down to Tassie Whiskey. Yeah. To Tassie Whiskey to Hobart, who was well, let's put this to the jury. Is John Jarvis another good bloke? Let's figure this out. But he's looking excellent there in the barrel house there at the Devil's Distillery, makers of Hobart whiskey. John, mate, how are you? And how's tricks in the Free State?
Yeah, not bad, mate. It's all pretty cruisy down here. We've been pretty lucky by keeping all you punks out of the state and keeping it nice and clean. I had to sit up in the Bond store tonight because I've got such an ugly mug that I needed something that looked a bit prettier than me. So I hope it looks all right and you appreciate it. How's everything going out there for you? You've been busy?
Yeah, mate. Well, I've been doing this, so that's everyone's seen exactly what I've been doing, but I've been loving it because it's been so much fun. Now we've been threatening to get down and visit you guys and see what's going on, and because I know you've got a lot of weird stuff happening, and you've been doing a lot of virtual tastings yourself, a lot of great barrel finishes and that sort of stuff. This sort of fits into this. What we're drinking tonight is some sort of rum cask. I mean, where does this fit in the Hobart sphere?
Yeah, right. Well, I mean, I'm a little bit hurt you say we do a bit of weird stuff. I mean, we do a bit of experimentation, but weird stuff, that's fine. I'll take it. And yeah, anyway, all right. So this one. So yeah, typically down here we're a small operation. We're not pumping out limited single casks. In fact, we've only ever done one single cask in our last 5-6 years, and that was through barrel and batch with Ray. So typically we're batting stuff together and experimenting with casks and moving things around and doing a lot based on gut feeling and instinct. So this one here matured in small ex-bourbon for about 3 years, and small to us is sort of 40 and 50 litres through to 80 litre American oak ex-bourbons. We never really went down the traditional 20 litre cask maturation down here. I just find they come on a bit tannic and a bit hot sometimes. Doesn't, and it's personal preference. Each spirit is different. But this one we actually vatted together those bourbons and put it into a fresh 200 litre rum cask, and it was meant to finish in that, but it sat in there for almost 2 years, and then we sort of were like, well, what do we do with it now? So we actually got some other rum finishing casks, vatted them together in pieces, and then put them into more rum casks. So it's a very sweet tropical fruit rum driven whiskey. Really, really, really wanted to put it out at natural cask strength, but we did just put a splash of water in there. This is a preview, I guess. We're still working on it. It's still sitting in stainless now. Just breathing. We're trying to work out if we're going to bottle it, how we're going to bottle it, what we're going to do with it. We have a pretty slow process for how we do things. So it'll be interesting to see what people think and what the feedback is on it.
Yeah. Well, what I can say while people are mulling over that whiskey is the chat is absolutely lit up with heckles and requests. So the first one obviously is Jarvis doing another rum cast because he thinks he looks like Johnny Depp. So that comes from Justin Farmer, and that's spawned a few things. But there's a request coming through from Alex Darlenberg to see if you could lift a barrel. Now I know we're putting you on the spot, but I can see some 20 litre ones behind you there. So they surely.
See, this is all just a green screen. So I'm in my finest clothes today. So if I'm going to lift a cask, I'm going to have to take my shirt off, and I don't think people really want to see that. So
do it.
So this is
my party trick. I do like lifting casks, so one day. But you've got to visit Hobart to see the party trick, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, well, as soon as we're allowed in, we that's a John Jarvis promise. Come and see him first. So this is at 58.6. This is what we're trying right now in its iteration. Just out of interest, what was natural cask strength like in that warehouse you've got there? how much are you losing, and how much water are you losing? Like, are you gaining or losing alcohol a year?
Well, it seems really just random. And it's really strange. The really good casks seem to evaporate much quicker than the other ones. I think this did come out at about, I want to say just over 60%. But we're not always filling out casks at the traditional 63.3. Quite often we'll look at the casks we're filling, we'll smell them, we'll play around with them, feel them out, and then we'll taste the spirit off the still, because it's a bit of variance between our brews. We brew here, taste the spirit, and then we'll cut it to where we think it'll go best for whatever cask we're putting it into. So I can't tell you off the top of my head what we filled these bourbons at. I imagine it probably was around 63, but it's not uncommon for us to, sort of fill it maybe 58, 59 through to 65, just see how it goes. The main thing is we've got our core range whiskey that we put out, consistent, always available, American Oak ex-bourbon marriage. But then the limited bottlings, we just do them on an ad hoc basis. We just pull them out, see how they go. We might vat some casks together. We might, we're not opposed to putting, bourbon with a bit of sherry and a little bit of peated cask influence or something like that, just to make a better whiskey all round, or a more rounded whiskey. And we find that works really well for us. And I completely forgot what your question was now.
But that's great, because you've spawned a few, and I'm going to throw this to the panel as well to get their thoughts on this whiskey. But also, just to kick that off, John, are you finding like discernible differences in the whiskey that's coming out of barrels that were filled at maybe 58, 59 as opposed to 63 and a half or something like that?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, our barrel management. So we got quite a few casks when we started up. We bought quite a lot of Hill Rock Distillery casks in, and they had this really sweet, bright character that come through. Then we started filling a lot of other bourbon casks, and they were quite different anyway. But all around that time was when our mash bill was changing, or our mash was changing, because we initially started buying wash from a brewery. We often talk about actually doing an experiment. We're lining up the exact same type of cask and doing different fuel ABVs. There's definitely a difference. I can't tell you off the top of my head what it is. I live off my notes. I have a shocking memory. I can't imagine why. But yeah, I definitely think maybe the slightly lower ABV pulls out more sugars and produces that brighter whiskey. But we're producing quite a light new make spirit anyway. We're prepared to take a smaller yield from the spirit run just to get a cleaner spirit. We're not going too far into the tail, so quite often our spirit's a bit lighter, and we're not picking up all of those tails that you get from the end of the run.
I'm going to throw sugar molasses in it.
I'm going to throw this to the panel, as Reggie said. But I think the most important thing, it still tastes like whiskey. It's not a rum dominant whiskey. This is still a single malt whiskey, which I think is the most important thing. But what do we think of it?
Very good.
Yeah, definitely beautiful. Brown sugar, maple syrup, pancakes, beautiful.
I get fairy floss coming through, but I think that's probably just what realistically John Jarvis reminds me of fairy floss. So it's probably just an association thing I'm getting there.
I don't know about fairy floss, but definitely a sort of a spicy lolly. I was actually getting a bit of initially there, getting a bit of star anise in there, and then that sort of lolly overtone. Very nice.
Well, who doesn't like it? I mean, be honest, because you're behind a screen, so.
I think it's very good. I think it is. There's lots of confectionery sweetness coming through, but it isn't too sweet. I think it works. It works very well.
I don't know. What do you think? What do you think?
If you add a drop of water as well, I think it opens up a little bit. And while I really wanted a cask strength rum cask for this, we might have to dial it back a little bit just to make a better whiskey.
What do you think, Paulie? Are you getting that star anise like I am too, or is that just me?
I am. This is like it's like taking a blind tasting to the extreme here. Can't see it, can't smell it.
Cam, you're about to jump in there, I think.
Yeah, look, I agree. It's got a lot of that sort of confectionery element. but it's certainly underwriting the malt. You know, your malt's coming through. You know, it's clearly a whiskey then in a rum cask. It's not as you know, heavily rummed as some of the rum casks I've had. The thing I found really nice as a surprise when I diluted it, it got some really nice floral characteristics. There was actually some you know, sort of rose, you know, that really beautifully floral oily characteristic that came through. So no, I think it was good.
Turkish delight, that rose, rose scent.
Yep.
Exactly.
Rose syrup coming through. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's
Chewy,
that confectionery element.
Yes. Yeah.
Chewy, you've worked in a few bars. You've poured your odd cocktail here and there. You know, rose syrup. Is that something you're picking up?
Oh, definitely. No, I can definitely see that kind of Turkish delight. I also get it might be that bartender, but like caramelized pineapple with like cinnamon dust.
Yep.
Definitely kind of coming through as well. But yeah, kind of pineapple lollies, delicious.
Yeah, so these rum casks were just, some of them were just pure tropical fruit. It was like a pina colada in a glass. And I say pina colada because that's literally the only cocktail I know the name of, because I'm simply you know, that pineapple and creaminess coming through.
That's a cracker. Do you recooper the cask, John, before you fill them, or you just fill them straight?
No, these were just filled straight up. So again, we sort of just look at our casks and decide how we want to go about it. Some of them we send off to be toasted, shaved, toasted, charred. Again, we're basically just a 2.5 man operation here of 2.5 people, and we just sort of feel it out and just trust our gut with a lot of things. Doesn't always work, but I mean, if it really didn't work, then I'm not going to present, you know, something that I thought was absolutely terrible.
Nah.
What do you think, Scotty? You're very quiet there. Have you tried it?
Scotty's frozen.
Was he talking to me? I missed that.
Yeah,
one.
you.
What are you doing there?
Yeah.
Have you tried it? What do you think of it?
Yeah, no, I think it's really cool. As I said, like I think it tastes like whiskey, which is the most important bit. But I get someone said the pineapple lollies, that sort of burnt pineapple thing, which I really get on the nose. You know, we've played here at the Oak Barrel with a bit of rum finished whiskey. We've bottled some Scottish whiskey for various fairs over the year that was in rum cask. So I'm a big fan of this. I know not everyone is a fan of the rum cask, but I really think it can work well when done properly. And I think the restraint you've done on this is the best bit of it. You know, it's not a novelty whiskey at all. It's got heaps of flavour with it. But you know, that's the same we did. What was it? Was it the rosé cask or something that you did in the past?
Right,
yeah, which was brilliant. And when you think rosé wine cask whiskey, you think, okay, this is going to be some novelty joke, maybe a cult, you know, fan base type thing. But it wasn't. It was just a very light dusting of that flavour. And I think that's what, you know, going by your nose, as you sort of say you're doing, that is the biggest compliment I think that, you know, people can know about your whiskey, because everything is really, you know, it's whiskey that you love and you would drink, and you wouldn't put anything else out that doesn't fit that. And I think that shows. So I think it's another great Hobart release. And you know, when can we see some? What is it in this release you're thinking that's not quite ready yet? Like, are you waiting for it to mellow out a bit, or?
Yeah, so mellow out a little bit. Maybe just some of those volatiles to burn off. Just in stainless, we might, you know, take the Ducate approach. We might beat it up. We might let it breathe. We might let it rest. And again, it just comes down to how we're feeling. It's pretty cool down here at the moment, so you know, we can't exactly just wheel it down into the sun and let some of it burn off there. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, we had all intentions of having this bottled by the fair, and then the fair didn't happen, and we felt like the pressure was off a little bit. So we just sort of know when it's ready, when we're happy with it. And I guess we have it's a bit of a luxury here that we can take our time with the whiskey and not have that pressure to get it out the door. You know, for all I know, this might not even be our next release. I mean, I'm pretty sure it will be, but we won't put it out until we're 100% happy with it. And it, you know, we make whiskey for us, and then we sell it to people. So we've got to be happy with it. We've got to be able to sit down and say, all right, I'll buy this. I'd happily drink it until we get to that point. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm enjoying it. I've enjoyed every whiskey tonight, and it's just, there's you can have a whiskey you enjoy, but do I really want to put that out to market? I just need to be 100% sure.
Yeah. No, I think it's a cracker. And just before we move on, obviously, as we all know, Tasmania released COVID into the world to keep mainlanders off the island. And so now that we're all getting very, very close to being fully vaccinated, what's the next thing you're going to come up with to keep me off the island?
No, look, I would welcome visitors. It's been beautiful not having you guys down here, but I have missed the interaction. I'm pretty keen to hop onto a plane and go and just, go and see some places as well. It's
yeah. Shout out to Simon Gorham as well, who's been a forum regular this week. I think echoing a lot of things that were said, like water. He's added a bit of water to his whiskey there. Super tropical lychee, Turkish delight, as Stu said, and pineapple lumps, which is quite a New Zealand reference there. But good to see Simon jumping on the chat as well. So look, mate, thank you, John. Again, your hard work's done now for the night, and luckily for you, you get the return of Serve with Dan Woolley from Highwayman coming up next with his whiskeys. So
no, it would only be a problem if I actually respected the guy.
Yeah. And on that note, Dan Woolley from Highwayman, mate, welcome to. Not quite a fair debut, because we sort of did something last year, sort of, but would have been in your in-person debut this year, but didn't quite get it across the line.
I've been to quite a few oak barrel whiskey fairs though. Pretty much, I think almost every single one of them since their inception.
You missed 2018 from memory, but every other one, I think you were there.
You're right. I did miss 2018. Yeah, I was on Isla, which trumps Whisky Fair every time, mate.
That's all right. Get there now if you want.
Yeah, thanks, mate. Thanks. So I'm very different to everyone here tonight. For those that have met me, I'm very different to just about everyone you met before. I do things my own way from day one. I've worked for a very, very long time in a lot of distilleries around the world, representing a lot of different whiskies. Working at the Macallan Distillery, working at Lafroig, working at Bamore, working at lots and lots of different distilleries, not just in Scotland, but all the way around the world, from Kentucky to Japan. And I found that working for these big distilleries, what I loved more than anything, what really, really drove my passion and drove my heart, and what I really wanted to do was make whiskies that I absolutely love drinking, which are sort of limited edition and special releases. And it always did my head in that a lot of these big distilleries would produce some of the greatest whiskies you've ever had in your life. And then some of their core ranges would tend to be a little lackluster. And I thought, I want to produce whiskey that I absolutely love drinking, big, bold, punchy whiskies. And, I definitely have Mr. Timothy Duckett to thank for that. He was definitely the one that turned my eyes onto actually creating a brand myself and working to create a whiskey and put myself in a bottle, so to speak. And I was lucky enough to start laying down casks in Byron Bay in 2016. So I started filling the first ever barrels of whiskey in Byron Bay in the history of Byron Bay and whiskey. And I was watching the way that they were maturing, and they were maturing very quickly, as you would suspect them to. And the first few barrels that I was laying down at 63.4%. And they were actually stripping bitter tannic notes out of the wood. So I had a good chat with David Vitale, and he said that they fill their barrels at Starwood at 55%. So I started experimenting with different ABVs, and I found 55% worked very, very well for me. and started laying down lots and lots of barrels, filling lots of barrels at different distilleries, different distilleries around Australia. And then in 2018, friends of mine, the Restall family, opened the Lord Byron Distillery, which is primarily a rum distillery. And we had a chat, and Brian said to me, why don't you buy a still, and why don't you buy a mash tun, and why don't you make whiskey here? And I said, why the fuck not? So that's exactly how it happened. Started distilling there 2018, and launched the brand Highwayman it's been about a year and a quarter, maybe 16 months now. And there's been about 16 different releases. And this particular whiskey is a batch preview of the next release. And it's very different to anything that we're looking at tonight, in the way that I actually have 16 different types of wood that I am aging in at the moment. And I age in a combination of 20 litre, 30 litre, 40 litre, 50 litre, 60 litre, 100 litre, 125 litre and 200 litre casks. And just about every single type of oak, every single type of seasoning. And this particular whiskey, I don't know if anybody's ever made a whiskey exactly like this before, because barrel 12, 13 and 14 were all laid down at exactly the same time from the same run. And barrel 12 was a French oak refill tawny cask, and barrel 13 was a French oak super heavy char ex-dry red wine barrel from Andy Young in Stansfeld, and barrel 14 was the same. Now, it got to about 18 months, and the barrel 12, the small 20 litre cask, I actually tipped it out and split it in half, and I put half of the liquid into barrel 13 and half of the liquid into barrel 14. I then aged them for about another year. This is basically barrel 13 and barrel 14 and barrel 12 married together. But as I said, I don't know if anyone's tipped a 20 litre cask, split the liquid in half and put half in a larger barrel and half in another barrel. The best way to think about it is I've basically used barrel 12 as concentrate, and I've put it into larger barrels, and then I've tipped them, married them together, and bottled it at cask strength at 55%. For me, it is the most restrained Highwayman that I've made. It's really, really floral. It's really, really sweet. It definitely has that Turkish delight as well, which we were talking about with John's whiskey. What do we think of it, guys?
Fairy floss.
Fairy floss, all the way. I'm going to use that every time now. I might just start calling John Jarvis Fairy Floss. That might be,
Is that because if you lick down Willie's beard, it tastes like fairy floss? Is that?
I actually found initially on the nosing this really toffee cream brulee up front that was just sensational.
It's got a really nice creaminess, I find, to it as well.
Sensational. There's a real toffee, almost dark chocolate. Well, not really dark chocolate, but toffee, cream brulee, sort of nosing initially, and then into the palate. Angela puts dates in her porridge in the morning, and reminds me a little bit of those, the dates that she chops up and puts in her porridge. Really nice.
Thanks, mate.
Big and robust, lovely.
Yeah.
But it's not too intense, I find. And I find the 55% for me, it just works. I wouldn't add any water to this.
No, it's lovely.
And a nice touch of wood too.
And I'm curious.
And I add some water to it. And the oak was really quite soft and silky. So, very pleasant.
Indeed.
Strength, but really, really pleasant as a diluted whiskey as well. So, no, great job.
Thanks, mate.
Dan, you mentioned experimenting with different fill strengths. I'm wondering about how's your ABV go in your particular climate? Is it climbing or dropping or?
It almost stays exactly dead on. It might go up 0.1 or it goes up, but it only goes up 0.1, maybe 0.2. It's only dropped down once out of all. I probably tip 40 plus casks now, and it's only ever gone down once out of the 40 times. And I've moved casks upstairs and downstairs and all over the place. Yeah, it's a very strange place, Byron Bay, as we all know, and even stranger is Mullumbimby, where I live. But its climate matures very, very quickly because the humidity is incredible. I mean, it has the same kind of heat as somewhere like you guys would experience in Melbourne in the peak of summer, or in Adelaide as well. But its humidity is just ridiculous. So it was always a gamble to see what the whiskey was going to mature like. That's why I've gone with so many different types of casks, different sizes, and been like a crazy mad scientist, throwing together different flavors and different casks and marrying things together. And out of those 40 plus casks that I've tipped, I've only come across 2 casks so far that I would bottle as single casks. Everything else has been batched, married together.
Yeah, right. That's why I thought it might be particularly hard to nail, because it'd be hard to do a sort of one size fits all approach of such a cross section of different wood. Yeah,
well, I'm never gonna like Angela and Gareth are doing, like Cameron's doing. I'm never going to have a regular line. Sorry, let me change that. I'm never going to have a regular line with Highwayman. I may have something.
How is the Beach Road Hotel in not Beach? What's the big Byron Bay hotel called?
I don't know, mate. I don't go into Byron.
No, you do.
It's full of Byron hipsters, mate.
The Great Eastern or something, or the Eastern?
No, the Beach Hotel. Oh, you mean the Great Northern?
Great Northern.
Yeah. So no, just as you were talking about lines, I was wondering how it was doing at the moment.
No, I only ever go into Byron Bay to get my pumpkin turmeric latte. That's the only time I'm there.
That and Tuesday nights at Cheeky Monkeys.
Cheeky Monkeys is no more.
Oh no!
Cheeky Monkeys is gone.
Justin Hems bought Cheeky Monkeys.
Did he really? No way.
He did. Yeah.
That is huge. That is amazing. That's my back. Yeah, the English in me is coming out.
Yeah. So let me just finish this particular whiskey. Is my next release. So this is a batch preview of my next release, and Scotty has the first 6 bottles on planet Earth. It won't be out for about another probably 3 or 4 weeks at least.
Sorry, go on, Gareth.
It's always interesting in these talking with different distillers from around the country, of course, because we're very almost opposite, I think, Dan, in terms of virtually every single barrel we've got over time goes down.
Loses alcohol.
Yeah. And
yeah.
Yet, obviously, Goolwa, in the Coorong, right on the edge of the Coorong, is not anywhere near Byron Bay, but we have a very humid climate as well. When people think humid, they think hot, tropical, sunny, high levels of moisture in the air. We are a very humid climate, but it's
very cold.
Right.
Humid, not hot humid. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but I think the big difference would be that we don't really have cold here ever.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's interesting? We're probably less than.
Days like today, when the water comes off the Southern Ocean, you just freeze your nuts off. It is just so cold when it comes off the Southern Ocean, but it's humid. People don't realise how damp the air actually is, and we're losing molecules of alcohol rather than water. Whereas pretty much a lot of people we find on the East Coast are going the other way. The strength in their barrel goes up, where our strengths in our barrels go down.
Yeah, so we're literally about an hour apart, and our ABV goes up as well. We're not that far away from you.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then out sort of where I am, the hotter you get, the same. Alcohol goes up, not down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
it's an
think
interesting one.
that's such a great sort of thing. You know, we talk a lot about Australian whiskey and what that is and what that actually means. But if we try and make Scotch whiskey or Japanese whiskey or American whiskey in Australia, we're going to have a bad time. You know, we need to make the best Australian whiskey you possibly can have. And I think that's so important, like not just being an hour away, you know, in South Australia, but you can be kilometres away from other distilleries, and the effect it has on barrels and maturation can be completely different, let alone fermentation. So I think, you know, wherever you are in the world, you need to play to your environment, and I think that's the best whiskies, and why they make so much great whiskey in Australia is that so many people do, and so I think that's fantastic. And when Highwayman release, chai latte flavored whiskey, he's just playing to his environment. That's what he needs to do.
Yeah. I'm not very Byron Bay, mate. To give you an idea, I actually live, and I'm not joking. My house is 4 doors down from the Telstra 5G tower, and I wear that with pride.
So just before we finish up on Highwayman, I want to throw back to Tasmania and Hobart Whiskey and JJ, mate. What do you really think of this release?
I think it's probably the best release Dan's done. I thought the others were terrible, but this one's really quite nice. No, I really do like it though. It's, Justin said medjool dates or something. I don't know what a medjool date is. I'm not that cultured, but I know what dates are, and I just got like pure dates off the nose. Really enjoyed it. I think it drinks like 55%. I really want to drink the rest of it, but I won't because I want to save some to come back to it. But yeah, definitely really enjoy that.
Yep, definitely not the first time that John Jarvis had dates on his nose either.
That's the Roy and HG dates.
Well played. 6 runs.
Awesome. Look, Dan, thank you so much for sharing something very, very special with us. The 6 bottles will go online on the Oak Barrel website at some point. I'm not going to say tomorrow. I'll just as soon as we're done tonight, I'll put them up there, and that can be a bit of fun. I actually have to admit there, mate, as there's a bit of echo. I don't know if it's coming from me or not, but I've been drinking an excellent whiskey while you've been talking about that, and I've in fact been drinking the Coastal Stone again because we used every drop of that bottle in the sample. So while everyone's been going on, I have absolutely no idea what this tastes like, what that whiskey tastes like, but we'll get into it again very soon. But I'm sure it's excellent as all the other samples you've thrown my way have been. But let's go a little bit back south with to the 78 Degrees Distillery, which we have known as the Adelaide Hills Distillery when it comes to whiskey up until a few months ago when 78 Degrees came back, and we're looking at now the triple smoked Cask sample. And I know absolutely nothing about this whiskey and where it's come from and what it means. So I'm going to throw straight to Chewy. I can introduce him as a good bloke and a legend of Australian whiskey industry. And the distillery has been...
Hang on, Scotty. Hang on.
I missed that hang on. Who'd the hang on come from? I didn't see that. Yeah, okay, Reggie. Yeah, okay. DJ Reg is cutting in there with the sample. But Chewy, mate,
Job screwed me.
Yeah. What do we got, and how are things over there?
Mate, things are really good, thank you. So we're like Hobart. Obviously, as Gareth said, we've been fairly unaffected down here, so everything's open. Today was a nice sunny day, so life's good. But kind of getting a bit of cabin fever. It'd be good to come and see you guys and get around the rest of the country. And obviously, for me, moving here from Sydney to tail end of 2019, it was I wasn't quite ready to quit cold turkey. I thought I'd be able to get back there a little bit more in the coming months, and start of 2020, that was pretty much it for me. But Adelaide life is treating me great. I've been here now for coming up 2 years, and it's been awesome. Working now with the guys at 78 Degrees, who are great guys to work with, and obviously we've got a new whiskey out. So as you kind of alluded to before, 78 Degrees for a long time has been a brand that sat under the Adelaide Hills Distillery banner. Adelaide Hills Distillery was the company that was producing spirits that included vermouth, bitter orange. We had a spiced rum that we couldn't call rum because it wasn't old enough, thanks to Uncle Bundy. And then we also had the 78 Degrees gin brand, which sat under there. But what we found was ultimately that anybody coming up to the distillery didn't always recognise the Adelaide Hills Distillery brand. You know, as people would come up, it would always be a case of, have you tried Adelaide Hills Distillery before? And blank faces. 78 Degrees. 78 gin. Yeah, I've tried 78 gin. You know, and I think it's just one of those. People always associate with a number a lot easier than they do with something like Adelaide Hills. You know, and as we grow, you know, we obviously want to try and get into new markets. And we were quite aware that, you know, Adelaide Hills might not translate particularly well into new places, whereas focusing on that 78 established brand, anybody in the world can connect with a number for whatever reason. So we kind of rejigged the company, and with that we added 2 new lines, one being a vodka and one being a whiskey.
So just Chewy, very, very, very quickly there, do you consider yourselves the Blink 182 of the Australian distilling industry?
In what way? I'm not really a big Blink 182 fan.
Well, just numbers, just easy to remember.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
Like some 41 came afterwards, like put a number on the name, you'll be right.
Yeah. We're going to get lip piercings and eyebrow piercings as well. Do they still have those, or was that just an era thing?
I have no idea. I don't think anyone's listened to Blink 182 for about 20 years, so I'm not too sure.
Yeah, I'm not sure either. Yeah, but it's it was one of those things. But with the whiskey, we obviously didn't just start making that now. You know, the whiskey's been something that's been 5 years or so in the making. So, you know, it's obviously been something that we planned. We're not like, I suppose, a lot of producers where we always wanted to make whiskey and we made gin in the interim. We literally set out to make gin. So we designed our distillery around making gin and producing gin. And that's something, I guess, that we've kind of now, you know, just purely, thanks, mate. You know, it's purely, thanks, Fred. Yeah, Fred's actually got lip piercing. I've just realized that as well. Yeah, so it's something that we, you know, we've kind of now played to our strengths and used that to our advantage. So with 78 Degrees, you know, and Adelaide Hills Distillery, we were always very focused on sustainability as part of what we're about. Our distillery is powered off 690 solar panels, which sit on the production roof shed. There's not just us up there. If everyone's not 100% aware, we've also got Mismatch Brewery up there as well. So it is quite a big production shed. And yeah, we've got 690 solar panels, which generates 300 kilowatts per hour per day of energy. So that actually fulfills all of our production needs. All of the wastewater actually comes from underground aquifers. So initially the site was designed to be an old apple orchard. So the guys who own the land are actually part owners of Lot 100. So they own Ashland Valley Fresh as well as Shiravalo Orchards. And they originally purchased the land to turn into an orchard, but being on a steep incline, they kind of scrapped that idea because to get a tractor up a hill like that was a bit of a nightmare. So it just got left. So what we did was they dug the bores initially for irrigation, and we've tapped into that now for production. So that aquifer water actually is our production water now. We built an on-site wastewater plant. So all of the water goes there first. It goes through 3 plate filters and then through reverse osmosis machine. So when it comes out, we've pretty much pulled it back as far as we can to pure water. But I suppose the beauty is that when we've used it in production, it actually then goes down the drains, goes back to the wastewater plant. We then add enzymes and treat it. And then all of the liquid waste goes out to irrigation. So initially, it actually then soaks back down into the aquifers. So it's being recycled. Any solid waste that we get out, we turn into fertilizer, and then we actually use that around the grounds as well. So we're always looking at ways that we can kind of repurpose our waste and, you know, and be as sustainable as possible. All of the Mismatch Brewery waste goes out to the local cows. We've actually got cows on site, Angus beef, that also end up in the kitchen, but are delicious. Grain-fed cows, Angus beef. Can vouch for
I can see Josh Walker doing the sage nod in the back.
Is good. Then to take it a step further, so the Shravlos actually they own the cows. So Ralph, the eldest, he actually goes round and he actually collects all their poo as well. So that then gets turned into fertilizer. So we're not even wasting that. All of the stuff with 78 Degrees and Mismatch and Lot 100, which is our cellar door on site, out of all three businesses, we actually only generate about a skip's worth of waste a week, and everything else is recycled or repurposed in some way, which we're pretty proud about. So yeah, when we came to make whiskey, we kind of looked at it through the same lens. So our initial whiskey, I don't know if everyone's tried, but we did the native grain. So another big thing that we're very proud of with 78 is focusing on local. And that's pretty easy when you make gin, because you find a local botanical, whatever it might be, and you chuck it in a still and you distill it, and all of a sudden, it's a native gin. But we kind of looked at what that could look like if it was whiskey, and how that might change. We really wanted to try and focus on, I suppose, creating something that was 100% Australian in flavour, as our representation of what whiskey can be. And we really wanted to try and reinvent how we could make whiskey, not try and take another process, but try and reinvent it around, one, what we had available to us, and two, what kind of made sense to us as well. So we initially focused on a native grain wattle seed. Problem with wattle seed is that although it's a native grain, it's not recognised as being a cereal grain. And obviously over here, we have a law that states that whiskey needs to be made 100% from cereal grains, exactly the same as what it is in Scotland. In the US, it's different, and that's why it just has to be made from grain. And that's why the likes of Koval have started playing around with quinoa as a base. Not being a cereal grain, that is still a grain, and they've used that as a base to their whiskey and had some success. So we initially released the native grain using around about 20% wattle seed, local unpeated barley, and then a few malted barley strains. However, we released it and then realised our mistake, and kind of, I suppose, that was the end of that. And we repositioned that, and actually from now on focus on weeping grass. So weeping grass is an endemic grass species. Similar to rye in a lot of ways, in terms of both being a grass species, but also being in flavour. So there's a lot of those kind of earthy notes, a lot of spice, and that's the native grain moving forward. The problem is, though, that because these native grains aren't commercially grown, they cost a lot of money for us to purchase. So wattle seed is around about, there's 385 species of acacia, so it's our most abundant native food source, but nobody's actually harvesting it. So it costs us around about $90 a kilo when we buy it. The thing that's great about it is because when you roast it, it's a lot like coffee. So you get chocolate, hazelnut, coffee notes, and that with whiskey equals a pretty good time. So it was delicious. Probably, it's a shame we didn't do more of it, because I think a little bit more age as well would have made it really interesting. But it was really interesting to see how it was working. Yeah, thanks, Mike. It was really, really chocolatey. With the weeping grass, that's actually $195 a kilo. So the price has gone up, which obviously makes it a bit of an expensive project to do. It is really much a passion project, something we believe in. We've got a few plots down the front of where the distillery is, where we're looking at planting some of these native grains and trying to have them on rotation so that we can essentially grow them, produce the native grain, and then I suppose recycle and regrow the crops. But at the minute, that's still a bit of a pipe dream, and we just can't get high enough yields of other strains at the minute to do anything else. So anyway, when we created our Australian whiskey, we wanted to create something that was a more affordable price point. So it was very much about having something that was down that cheaper end of the spectrum. It was kind of aiming for that $100 mark and having it as something that was constantly available. We were quite lucky. The reason why we decided to make whiskey in the first place is because the brother-in-law of one of our founders, or one of our owners, actually has a barley field. So we had access to our raw material, essentially. So he's based up in Malala, being kind of north of Adelaide, and South Australia is known as being one of the best barley growing regions in the world. 85% of what is grown here is straight out to export for brewing purposes. So they, in particular, are actually growing a lot of barley for Sapporo prior. So it was all going to Japan. But through the York Peninsula, it's pretty much a big grain belt. So a lot of what's being grown there is going straight out to the UK, and Europe and US for brewing purposes. So, we knew it was good quality stuff. getting it as a raw material, we kind of had a decision to make whether we were going to malt that barley or whether we were going to leave it as it was. So we did a bit of research, and we found that on a sustainability point, malting was it uses a lot of water and it uses a lot of energy. So we took the decision not to. And what we did was we actually used that unmalted barley as 80% of the base of our whiskey. We then add in 20% local malted, essentially brewing strains that kind of help to enhance that flavor profile and give it more character. And then we kind of looked at each step of the process. So we've got an 800-litre mash tun. It's not a lauter, so we don't actually have that mesh plate on the bottom to take out our grain. We decided not to filter out the grain. Again, through sparging, we'd be using water and energy. So we actually decided that we were going to ferment on husk. What we kind of saw there was a lot of flavor coming out from that. Essentially with biotransfer. When you ferment on skins with wine, or when you ferment with hops in a brewery tank, you get biotransfer. The yeast will start to eat carbohydrates and release haze and oils and flavonoids. And we saw this real biscuity character start to come out, which wasn't really our intention initially. We didn't look to do that, but it was almost, I suppose, something that came out just purely from that process. We then distill on husk as well. So, like I said, initially we designed a still that was originally designed for gin production. So it's a hybrid. It's a big old pot. It's a 2,000 litre with a column rectifier. What we do is we actually add it in. It's got a big reflux bulb. Add it into the pot component. It then goes through 5 plates of the column, and it's only single shot distilled. It actually comes out from ferment, from wash to 75% alcohol. So we actually only distill it one time. Because we initially designed our still to make gin, we have an agitator installed, which essentially is a big long rod with a paddle on the bottom. And that was in there purely to stop scorching of botanicals. If we were distilling neutral spirit along with juniper, cinnamon, clove, citrus, whatever it might be, if it was in the pot, obviously it could always scorch and flavor the distillate. Because we've got that, it actually allows us that ability to distill on husk and I suppose not take out a waste material. The pot ale we actually take back to Malalar because it's obviously then rich in copper sulfate and also nutrients from the husk. We actually repurpose it as essentially a pesticide onto the crops in Malalar. The spirit that comes off, we're currently proofing down to about 58%. It was good hearing what everybody else was saying as well about playing around with ABVs. Initially we kind of were looking, I suppose, with that Scottish standard, that 63.5 or so as the gold standard. But I think what we quite quickly realised was that, we've not got the same climate as what they've got in Scotland. It's very different. Our spirit reacts in a much different way. And we just weren't really seeing the results we wanted to at that ABV. So we brought it down to 58 and we're just seeing a much better maturation at that level. Everything we're aging in so far is 100% ex-red wine casks that have all been shaved, toasted and recharred to obviously pull back as much as possible. We are starting to look at playing around with refill casks now. At the minute, so we've only done, we're up to, I think, batch 4 now. So we're still really young. We're still really new. This is quite a new journey and a new adventure for us. So I think, like most distilleries, and again, it's good hearing stories from some of the older heads in here as well, because I think learning as you go and evolving your processes. We talked about with the casks. Obviously, we rejigged from being 100 litres to 200 litres. I think
just to give yourself a chance to get a glass of water and have a breath, can I get a round of applause, please, for Chewy? Because that is the quintessential Whisky Fair experience where you have 60 seconds to sell someone on your brand because there's 400 stands to go to. That was like, you've done this once or twice before. Like, people watching on the stream were like, what's Whisky Fair like? That's what Whisky Fair is like.
Speed dating with whiskey.
What you go explain there, big fella?
Yeah, thanks. So anyway, we got this one here. So this is a little collab that we're playing around with. Has everyone had a chance to try it?
I drank it already.
Have you? On to the next one. This one here is it was a collaboration that we did with Corsair, who are single malt producers based out in Tennessee. They actually have a triple smoke that they release And they were over here. I'm not sure what they were doing, if I'm honest. I think they were trying to find a distribution partner at the time. But they're over and they're in Adelaide. So we got them up to the distillery and we did this collaboration with them. We'd ordered in some peated barley to play around with. So I think it's probably the same as what you're using, Dan, from Thurso. So quite heavily peated malt from Scotland. So we brought that over, and I guess what the concept of it was trying to incorporate America, Australia, and Scotland. You know, 3 whiskey producing areas, and producing something that represented 3 different types of smoke. So peated malt from Scotland. We got the guys from Corsair, so we used that unmalted barley. So we got the stuff from Malala, and we wet it, and then they smoked it using cherry wood as the American representation, I guess. And we actually used red gum. So there was a load of red gums on the property when we took over. Obviously, we had to cut some down in order to build a distillery and sell a door on there. But we've repurposed them all. So for a while, we were using it as firewood in the kitchens. We also turned a load into tables and chairs and a few little features around the distillery. But I was talking to the chefs, and it's apparently quite a good fuel to use because it's really economical. It will burn right down to a dust, so you don't waste a lot of it. But it gives that nice kind of eucalypty character as well. So we produced them all. Essentially, we produced all the malts separately and then blended together and then treated it all as the same whiskey. So it all got milled, mashed together, fermented and distilled together, and then aged. We've got it in, I think it's in 2 different casks at the minute. So one's ex-bourbon, which we got. Obviously, we're distributed through South Trade, so we have access to Buffalo Trace stuff. So we did get a few Buffalo Trace casks to play around with. We've only got about 5 of them, though, I think. It's not something that we've continued to use. But some of the Corsair ended up in one. And then the other was in the same red wine cask that we use, red wine that's been shaved, toasted, and recharred. But I think what we'll find is we're looking at potentially, they both taste really good, but I think together they probably taste better. So I think when we release this, what we're going to do is we might actually marry those two casks together and then create something from the 2 as opposed to two different.
It's an utterly unique whiskey, and then but after time, it's got this creaminess that comes through at the end, at front of those sort of more bold, flavors that come off the nose. The palate is supremely.
The nose is almost cross between Vita Wheats and Rye Vita. It's got
there's a real to it, isn't there?
Yeah, but the palate's really different. The palate, I find, it's almost got a mezcal hint to it, but it's also got a rye whiskey hint to it as well. It's utterly bizarre in a fantastic way. I really like it.
Yeah, it's really good. Definitely some of that sort of grassy nose coming through. I think Dan just nailed it with the rye and mezcal palate as well. It's really good. I like it.
Thank you.
So I mean, you mentioned, Chewy, you might play around with this before you release it. What would this be released as? What does this sort of thing, emerge as in the future?
Unfortunately, we didn't do a lot of it. So we've got 2 casks, which, we were talking. We were talking about evaporation and millage, lost, angel share, all the rest of it. I think we're losing around about 5% on average at the minute, but that's represented as around about 10% because I think so many people are pulling samples out of the cask to use for different bits and pieces. So it's we don't know how much we're actually going to end up with. But it's part of it. It's part of learning. You pull it out at different times and see how it's maturing. So I think for this one we're probably not going to end up with a lot of it. We're probably just going to do it direct through our website. We're kind of developing a bit of obviously being a gin brand up until now, we've been very focused towards, I suppose, selling white spirits. And what we found is coming into dark spirits that, it's not always translatable. The people that are interested in that aren't necessarily interested in that. So we're trying to develop more of a whiskey focused mailing list as well. So any stuff like that, we normally put out to them first, give them the first chance to get it. And then whatever's left over, we'll stick on the website and sell through there.
Yeah, mate, it's absolutely fascinating, and we can all see where your history came from as the MC of the Scary Canary in Sydney. Sorry, the Baxter Inn. Sorry,
Scary Canary.
Yeah, that's very good.
A few nights of chicken.
Up on stage there, mate. It's look, this is really special. And thank you so much for allowing us to try a sample of something that many of us may not ever try again, which is really cool. But look, we might move on very quickly to finally involve someone who has been waiting for over 2 hours now to have a drink that's representative of what he's got in his glass. Paul, Slats, mate.
Thirsty.
You've got 60 seconds to sell us on something because
60 seconds. Yeah. Something that's a bit left of center here. The Blasphemy coffee whiskey. So I'm not sure if anyone's seen this. It actually it hit the streets just under a month ago, actually. But to put it in perspective, I'm going to take a short back step anyway. A lot of you are familiar with what we do. You know, at Archie Rose, we're making 2 types of whiskey predominantly as our core. So we're doing our rye malt whiskey, which has been on the market for almost 2 years now. Single malt whiskey, a bit more recent. We did begin making these around the same time. So back, you know, right at the beginning of it all in Rosebery, which was late 2014, the start of 2015. Those 2 core whiskies are going really well. Things have changed a bit. It was almost a year ago now that we moved out to our new site at Banks Meadows. So, you know, where we kicked off in Rosebery, fairly sort of, I guess, typical Australian setup with a couple of Nat Lure pot stills there. We were making some really good juice out of it. Of course, a lot of white spirits too, but we're not here to talk about that tonight, are we? And then we had the opportunity to upscale. And so we moved out to Banks Meadow. And I guess the beauty of that is that we've not only got a whole lot more scale there, so we can produce a whole lot more high-tech stuff too. So what we're doing now is, well, it's a combination of both because of that time in transition, particularly when you're talking about whiskey. The Blasphemy that we're having a look at tonight, I guess the short answer for it, it's single malt whiskey that's been cut from cask strength back to 40% ABV with coffee. So, you know, as much as we have our core range, we like to have a bit of fun. We like to innovate, you know, something on the side there. The idea of making a coffee whiskey, I think it was Will Edwards who found it a couple of years ago. You know, it's pretty simple, really. Here are 2 things that we love. We love single malt. We love whiskey. Go for it. Do something. And so he gave the brief to Fish, who's our chief blender, I guess. I think his title is. Basically gave him carte blanche. It was like, you've got a lot of whiskey to choose from over there. You're going to be working with St. Ali, who a lot of you probably know. There's some coffee roasters down here in Melbourne who are pretty fantastic. They do wonderful things there. They're quite well renowned. Not really many constraints on what this project is to be, but keep it as a spirit. So don't add sugar, don't add anything else, and just go for it, you know. So we played around with, look, so many different variations to make this. You know, there were ideas on the board like, let's barrel age some coffee beans, let's macerate them, you know, lots of things. It was all out there, basically. In the end, what we did was basically took a big parcel of single malt whiskey. I think there were like 50 different varieties of coffee that we began with. And we settled on 2. I think they're the Orthodox and Wide Awake. So one was a cold brew. One was more like a hot steep, like a filter. And what we're trying to do there is basically, you know, interplay sort of complementary flavors. Put the whiskey and the coffee together, cut it down, off you go. It sounds really simple, not so simple. I tried a bunch of different works in progress on this, and I can tell you it's no easy task. You're working with 2 sort of really stringent liquids there, and to get them to sort of marry and complement one another and not have something that's a real shock to the palate was no easy task. But I guess, look, in my mind, why this really works well is because a big proportion of the whiskey that we're using in this is from the 6 malt mash bill that we're using for our single malt. So in the early days, we were mostly using pale malt then, sort of more traditional, Aussie grown pale malt there. that was great. A lot of that has gone into the base of this whiskey because I guess it doesn't really represent our core range single malt whiskey so much. But then, of course, we've used a whole lot of the 6 malt mash bill. But then against really the sort of darker roasted, like the caramel and aromatic malts that are in there, that work really well with coffee flavors. Like, you know, this is whiskey that's sort of, it's somewhat reminiscent in aroma and flavor of coffee, nuts, chocolate, all that sort of thing anyway. So there's a lot in common there. So, you know, we chose the coffee accordingly too. I tend to get, like, first thing on the nose for me here, it's actually a lot of red berries. It's super fruity. Sometimes it's hard to discern. I'm sort of like, am I getting coffee flavors there or am I getting whiskey flavors, you know? But keeping in mind that this was, I think, about 9% of the total volume, which is about just under 20,000 litres. This pretty big batch. About 9% coffee, the rest of it whiskey. So this is really, it's whiskey forward to me anyway, with a bit of coffee just sort of in rear. What else can I say about it? You know, it's got all those characteristics. It's still like, it's nougat. It's got some chocolate in there. Espresso, of course. I think it works pretty well. Took a lot of work to get the mouthfeel right on this, you know, because of course, it's been interesting. When I present this to people, you say coffee whiskey, they expect something like a liqueur. You know, there's a lot of good stuff out there. But usually you get something that's like easier to palate because you're putting sugar or something like that in there, you know, adds a lot of texture to it, sweetens it up. That's what people like. So it's a bit more of a tough task to do that. But I think it's come together pretty well. Not loads of caffeine in it. A lot of people get excited about getting jacked up on caffeine. I'm sorry if I'm disappointing anyone there. But I think you mentioned earlier, Scotty, it's a bit of perhaps a dessert whiskey. So, you know, I've had a lot of fun playing around with it. It's a good mixer, I think.
Yeah, well, like, you know, it is 40%, so it doesn't make sense necessarily always on spec to go last. But we've done this last at all the 3 get-togethers, and it works every time. And I think that the biggest point to drill home here is this is not a coffee liqueur. This is a whiskey that happened to have some coffee someone spilled into it on the way to works one day.
I'm shaking it up in an espresso right now.
DJ Reg, mixing it up as always.
Have you got your vodka in there, Reg?
Of course.
Yeah. Good man, send me a sample, please.
Yeah, actually, tomorrow night we're going to cancel Sullivan's Cove, and Reg is going to send out samples of what he's making up there to everyone instead.
I've got a few things happening here in the shed at home. What can I say?
Look, mate, Slats, it's it's such a great little experiment, and you know, it fits into whiskey. Not just Whisky Fair, Whisky Forum, but whiskey drinkers in general, because of, you know, as it tastes, it is a whiskey essentially. It's a twist on a whiskey rather than anything else. So I think it's fantastic. But look, we have asked everyone here tonight for I think it's about half an hour this would go for, and you've all donated your towns exceptionally. But I wanted to give everyone very, very quickly a chance to address the audience and give us a quick update on what's coming up and what we can expect, because we're a lot of what we've done tonight is look to the future and that sort of thing. So I'm going to rearrange the screens, and Slats, you're going to be up first, and then we'll go from there. So Slats, Archie Rose in the future, can we expect to see Archie Rose whiskey back on shelves at any time in the future?
It's actually really good timing. You should bring that up, Scotty. It's about to come back.
It's almost like I knew or something.
Yeah. Actually, I thought Dan would have always had a few bottles squirreled away for you. But look, like a lot of local distilleries, a lot of international distilleries too, I guess, it's hard to keep up with demand when, you know, I talk about 5 years ago when we were making this stuff that's on the market. Now we're on this tiny little copper stills. Now I've got a lot more capacity. I think we actually, in the first 6 months of production at the new site, we filled as many barrels in that amount of time as we did in, you know, close to 6 years at the old site. So, you know, it's the There's a bit of a lag in that, of course, but it's coming back. At the moment, look, shortly by the end of the month, we'll have both single malt whiskey and the rye malt whiskey back on the market. So look, not loads of it, but the purpose was to keep it consistent, keep the price the same, just keep doing what we do. So while we don't have limited supply, yeah, it's coming back. And then a few limited releases too. You might have seen the port whiskey in every port. Did you get your hands on that?
No, I have no idea what you're talking about. And why don't I know what you're talking about?
Wow. Man. Are you serious? I can't believe it. No, this is a little release that we put out almost 2 months ago. So some Portuguese port casks, some Australian tawny casks. That was a pretty small one, about 900 bottles. But look, we do those things from time to time. There'll be more of that coming out. There'll be more white spirits. Try to keep our whole whiskey as regular as we can, and then do a bit of other fun stuff with the white spirits as well, of course.
Beauty. Awesome. I look forward to it. And as I think it was Jared Davies that pointed out, the new site is breathtaking. I missed out on a tour of the new site because I was headed to work. There was a bit of a staff shortage here. Not expecting lockdown to then cripple it moving forward. So I still haven't been there, and I'm waiting for lockdown to end. So we'll look at like Archie Rose. We all know it's going to be. And Oak Barrel and Archie Rose have a very, very tight connection. So we look forward to that. So thank you, Slats, for putting up with us tonight while we all had fun and you had to sit there and do nothing. I'm going to roll this from basically the top of the screen. So I'm going to go from Reggie and Dave. You move up. So I'll throw to you, Reggie, quickly, then I'll bring Dave on. Manly Spirit / Coastal Stone. What can we expect in the next couple of months leading up to Christmas?
Big things happening. Watch your space. There's a lot of stuff coming up. Young team, a lot of energy, a lot of excitement. So, yeah, expect some big things out of Manly Spirits for sure.
Beauty. Dave, do you want to add anything to those wise words from
Lots of detail there from Reg, I can see. I've told him to keep everything quiet, and he certainly did keep it quiet. That's good. Look, I think we covered it all before. We're just starting, so, it's just getting our first blends right. Funnily enough, we're going to do a vodka. I know we're talking about whiskey here, but oh my God, we're going to do something that tastes like nothing. So, you know what I mean? Vodka, alcohol.
Vodka is the future. I'm calling it now. Vodka's the future.
Well, we're going to stick one of those out, but that's just as we go along. That's why we're spirits guys, not just. But anyway, we thought there's a bit of a hole for that. But no, whiskey. We're just learning. Put stuff out there, try different barrel expressions, but you'll see. We'll all taste them, and you can give us feedback, and we'll keep making it, won't we, Rich? Yes, he says. Yeah.
I still don't think he can hear you.
No,
there's no reason why this software doesn't work. This is selective hearing. He's just choosing not to hear his body at the moment. I think that's what's going on right now.
Actually, the last thing I'll say is that I reckon, the Cameron did with the Duke.
Oh, now I can't hear Dave.
None of us can hear him.
What have you done?
Not me.
I've gone for Reg.
Yeah, you're back now.
So I don't know what happened then. Last thing I'll say is we're thinking about in the future, it's not really for now, how at some stage doing like Cameron's doing with the Dugite, like doing a blended whiskey with a grain whiskey in it. It's going to be years and years to come, but, we're kind of thinking about how we do that. We're chucking a few things in barrels to see what happens in a few years' time, what happens to that more neutral stuff with cask character. But it's not now, that's years away. But it's something we're thinking about to have also on the range a quite accessibly priced whiskey as well.
I think that's very exciting. It's an excellent insight into the future, and I think that sort of stuff, as much as the top level is the premium stuff, is very, very exciting. Like, thank you, Dave and Reggie, for involving us in your launch night. Your very first whiskey was launched today, so thank you very much.
Thanks.
Looking forward to catching up with everyone, having a dram in the not too distant future when this lockdown stuff blows over for sure.
Bloody oath, Reggie. You're first on my list. I trust you. Josh, mate, Absolute pleasure as always. For me, one of the unsung heroes of Australian whiskey. What can we expect between now and the end of the year from Timboon? Anything exciting? I know you alluded to something.
Yeah, can't sort of let too many details on that yet, but we are working with a local winery, an award-winning winery that most people would know, with a couple of different finishes. We're hoping to have out around Christmas time. But yeah, one of the big projects is working with a research foundation and going to donate a certain amount of each bottle to them, and hopefully cure a rare condition called FA. If anyone doesn't know what it is, have a bit of a Google, and that's what we're trying to do. So hopefully get out of lockdown soon, mate, and back to normal.
Yeah, so that was Josh Walker, shit bloke and terrible human being all around.
Good to see you, Josh.
Never done anything good for anyone in the world. Christ Almighty, mate! One day I'll be able to visit Timboon again without feeling embarrassed. But mate, thank you for the excellent whiskies you've made over the last couple of years. We look forward to it. I'm going to throw to Johnny Jarvis down at Hobart there, mate. It looked like it's getting colder there.
No, it's not too bad. It's probably a nice cool 5 or 6 degrees now. So it's still it's 8. Sorry, it's 8 degrees. That's not too bad. Yeah.
What can we expect between now and Christmas from Hobart?
Oh, I don't know. Well, we might put out this rum finish. We'll probably just go away and have a think about it. See what we want to do. We're working on something for Christmas, something a little bit weird, as Scotty would say. Not experimental, but something a little bit weird. So look, jump on our social media, sign up to the newsletter. You'll be in the loop. But it should be a bit of fun. I mean, Christmas will be here before we know it. So
and if people want to do that, what should they Google? They Google just Hobart whiskey and find the connections there.
It's not rocket science, mate.
Or should they Google John Jarvis and find your social media?
Well, they're linked, so come on, 2 and 2 makes 4. It's pretty easy to work out. Surely you can handle it.
Well, thank you, thank you, John Jarvis, from that insight from a bloke who put his head on upside down this morning when he got out of bed. Google Hobart whiskey. Go if you when we get out of this, go down. Make sure that if you get out of Hobart Airport, you probably need to get a taxi into Hobart Town anyway before you go through. So you can't stop off in Richmond anyway. So go straight to the hotel, come out and see Devil's Distillery. Go see John Jarvis. Tell Scotty he sent you, and whatever reaction you get there will be up to you. Thank you, John. Appreciate that.
Thank you for putting this together. Like, I was really looking forward to the fair this year, but was super glad I didn't come to Sydney now. But I really appreciate what you're doing with the forum, and it's nice just to catch up with people. That's for sure. So thank you.
Yeah, having a drink is the most important bit. Chewy, mate, MVP of the Whisky Fair sort of sentiment tonight, mate. You're unbelievable tonight. In 30 words or less, if you've got it in you, what's happening between now and Christmas for 78 degrees?
Mate, I am a man of few words. Between now and Christmas, we've got a weird cask finish coming up. But obviously, we recently got taken over by Mighty Craft. So we've got a lot of stuff internally that's starting to change as well, which for the next couple of years hopefully is going to mean that we can upscale everything and do things a bit bigger as well. So that's all exciting. That's all happening at the minute as well.
Nah, beauty, mate.
And I'm with you, Chewy. I love wattle seed as well, mate. I'm a big wattle seed fan.
It's delicious, huh?
Oh, mate, how can you go wrong?
Yeah, exactly.
And once you've bought a case of Dugite to get you through the next couple of weeks, go out and buy a couple of cases of the 78 Degrees just standard whiskey. It's an absolute cracker.
We've got the
same sort of mentality
as well. So the muskets are for Father's Day.
Beauty. So through 78 Degrees website.
So we're hoping for that one to go a bit wider as well. So hopefully in independent retailers and major retailers moving forward.
I'm an independent retailer.
I'll be sending you a bottle very shortly.
Oh, beauty! Happy day. Awesome. Wherever you want to buy it from is perfectly fine. Mate, Chewy, thank you very much. I'm going to throw to the rock stars. We didn't hear a song tonight, but that drum kit looks fantastic. Like there are cymbals everywhere. So we sort of got to have a look into what's happening in the next couple of months. But what's happening between now and Christmas for you two?
Well, a couple of things. First of all, Scotty, this is the room you stay in when you come visit us. All right, there's a queen-size bed that comes out from underneath the 26-metre long 4-lane slot car track, and this is where you sleep under the air conditioner with the music streaming out one end.
Can I not sleep on the slot car track?
Oh,
I'll walk over.
Yeah, no, I do watch the trees. I don't want you to.
How good is this camera? It follows people as they walk.
No, it won't go.
Won't cost follow all the way.
Oh yeah, there it is. No, I love it.
It away. Anyway, so what's happening? Well, as we've said, the next few months, of course, we've got some new brands, new images. Oh, there's the bank curve, and there's the bed, Scotty, underneath.
You
Just
don't
roll
have
it
to
out.
sleep under the track.
No, roll it out.
We roll it out.
New labelling with a mainline and premiums, which is all good fun. Something we really haven't talked much about. Collaborations are some of the best fun you can have with your pants on. And our dear friends, legends at Blackgate Distillery. You know, we've done a couple of collabs with Blackgate, and we'd like to do another one. I don't know if we can squeeze that in before Christmas. That's still up in the air. There's a few other distilleries in Australia. Not looking at anyone, Josh Walker. There's a whole heap of other distilleries that, you know, we have so much fun doing collabs that one of these days we need to have a chat with some people and see if we can get some more. You know, Australia is really well known for all these distilleries doing their own thing, but to get more distilleries together to create a whiskey,
really Australian whiskey.
That's Australian. You know, there's so much fun we can do with that.
Yep. Look, I think it's excellent sentiments, and I think you know, Josh Walker needs to know quite a lot about that. We're going to do between yourselves and me. We're going to do a tasting just with you guys, not necessarily with whiskies, but just with guitars, because I've seen more than 6. So we're going to have a lot of fun with that. We're going to do a guitar live tasting.
In his spare time, he's building them.
Yep, no, that's. But don't save it, because this is good content. We're going to save for another live stream. Look, thank you guys. We look forward to everything you're doing. I'm going to throw to, and I'm just working down the ladder here, to Dan Woolley from Highwayman, mate. Thank you so much for previewing something with us tonight. What can we expect in the next couple of months?
Mate, I have been spending a lot of time and all my money setting up the cellar door, Highwayman HQ. It is looking incredible. I cannot wait to share it with everyone. There is a beautiful 10-seater tasting table and some Chesterfields inside. And I'm going to have a whole bunch of different tours that you can do and different tastings. Bottling your own straight from the cask that's in the middle of the table at the end of the tour. And there's some really, really cool stuff I've got coming on. I've got a whole bunch of different whiskey coming out for the end of the year, a special Christmas release, 1 more single cask, 2 more batch releases, and then early next year, my peated stuff will come on the market. So lots to look forward to.
Beautiful. Thanks, mate. Really, really appreciate tonight and all the support you've shown us over the years. And then finally, but certainly not least, Cameron, mate, before I ask you what's coming up, can I just say again what I said earlier tonight? Thank you so much for everything you've done for Australian whiskey. And people who are consumers see Lime Burners as a trailblazer. They see Tiger Snake, they see Dugite, they see Margaret River Gin. They see all that sort of stuff. But what they don't necessarily see is how much effort you've put in the back end. The stuff they don't see, the bits and pieces, the looking through forms, they're trying to make stuff work. and not just for yourself, but for the whole industry, mate. It's such a great pleasure to have you back. Admittedly, not in the oak barrel, but in an oak barrel whiskey fair environment. Thank you so much for donating your time tonight and everything you've done, because let's be honest, most of us wouldn't be here without you.
100%.
And mate, you're still on mute, so you need to do a shot. If you
best way to deflect a compliment, make a dick of yourself, isn't it? So, yeah, no, look, thanks, very kind words again. And I'm just doing what I love. You know, and I think in Australia we're in a fantastic spot. We've got, I think, the world's best spirits coming out of this country. You know, and there's people doing really exciting stuff. You know, congratulations to Angela and Gareth. You know, last night, that's another, you know, world title out of the US. That's fantastic. You know, there's really cool stuff. You know, that's going on. I think Reg is on delayed. He might have just said it.
No. Josh, your boy's on delay about 30 seconds, I think.
Yeah. I did want to ask Josh though, what was the word we needed to Google? Because I missed that, and I reckon lots of other people would have too.
Oh, the word.
So we'll just wait 30 seconds for Josh to come in line.
I might have. No, that's all right. If maybe you can just let us know, because I was keen to know what he's up to. So look, phenomenal stuff going on for me. It's been a great opportunity. Really appreciate the invitation to get over on the East Coast in a virtual sense. Look, I've drunk the whiskies tonight, and quite often, even with my own whiskies, when I'm going, you know, if I've got 3 or 4 whiskies that I think are cracking, and I'm like, you know, which is the next one, I'll sit down with them and not consciously drink them, and then I'll look at which glass or which bottle is empty, you know, at the end of it. So that's sort of what I've done and gone through. And so I'll turn it this way because nobody can see what it is. So the bottle that I've actually drunk the most of tonight, which I usually tend to go, I think is, you know, probably my most enjoyable, is a big congrats on a first release to my Manly Spirits guys. Loved it. Really, yeah, really enjoyed it, guys. I mean, it's a bit hard, like choosing your own favourite child, you know, amongst Australian whiskey. A lot of great whiskey on the table, but that's the bottle I finished. So thanks again. The other thing maybe I'd ask for distillers, if I'm the last one to be talking, would to be maybe for us to put our hands together for Scotty to pull this together for us.
Yeah.
Thanks, Scotty.
No, look, I appreciate it, but you're wrong, because all I do is sit here and talk about it and take all your glory and all your hard work and run it through it and take the shine. But you guys are the people who actually make this. You work this, you live this, and it's you guys are by far the most important people that do this. So I appreciate that, Cameron, but you're wrong. And that's the only time I will ever tell you that you're wrong, because on every other thing you're right. So, look, thank you, everyone.
Sorry, Scotty, can I just ask Josh, what was the term we had to Google, mate? I missed that. I don't know whether he really wanted to tell us or not, but there was something you were saying Google. I missed it, and I thought other people might have too.
Sorry, mate. I just dropped out then. I missed that.
Yeah, you know, you said to Google something. You're doing something interesting. Google this term. Have a look for it.
Oh, yeah. So it's a rare disease called, for short, FA. You just Google FA. Yeah, it'll come up with the disease. Frederick's Anloma. Yeah. So it's a rare degenerative disease that sort of like MMD, but yeah, it doesn't have any funding. Like MMD does, so yeah, I'm getting behind it. I know someone whose family friend has got it, and yeah, jumping on board with them to try and get something happening, raise awareness and some money.
Yeah, respect, man.
Yeah. So yeah, go have a Google. Yeah, when you jump off, and you'll see what it's all about. The actual research foundation is called FARA, so FARA. So,
all right, beauty. Thanks, Josh.
No worries, guys. Thank you.
Can you just please?
Sorry, Scotty. Sorry,
not
mate.
be
Just trying to help.
Such a good bloke all the time. Chill the fuck out, mate.
Oh, I'm going.
Look, thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. It's my pleasure as a human being to even know you people. let alone be able to call you friends, let alone to be able to, push that friendship enough to be involved with this sort of carry on that we call the Sydney Whisky Forum. Thank you, everyone who's been watching. We will see you tomorrow night in the grand finale. We might come up with something on Saturday. We'll see how well I wake up on that morning. But tomorrow night we're going to talk Sullivan's Cove and the art of blending and all that sort of stuff. But look at all these faces on this stream tonight, as you have through all the other nights. These are the people who work and bleed to make the whiskey that you make, that we love, and so it's fantastic. So thank you everyone on this stream tonight. We really appreciate it, and we will see you in the future. Well, I'm going to see you all in about 5 seconds when I cancel this stream, and we can all still have a quick chat and say goodbye. But everyone on the Facebook and YouTube, we're going to say goodbye to. So thank you, everyone, for doing that. It was unbelievable. And we will see you all at the next one.
Thanks,
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Scotty.
Thanks, Scotty.